Barry? 50%. Bring YouTube, and we are streaming.
Very good. Call the meeting to order. Going back to yesterday's proceedings, we're going to proceed with from where we left off yesterday with the election of the secretary. Nominations from the floor.
Roll call.
Oh, yes, thank you. We do have to do roll call. Was on the agenda, so I didn't do it. Sorry about that. Mr. Kolsky, please proceed with the roll call.
All right, pulling up the list. Okay. For everyone online, please accept the panelist promotion. Okay. Mark Axon.
Present.
Chance Haywood. Maury Davis. Paul Grindel.
Here.
Matthew Morgan. Gary Popkin. Justin Carman.
Present.
See Justin's online.
Mr. Carman, can you please respond to the roll call?
Sorry, I thought I did. Yeah, present.
Proceed, Mr. Kolsky.
I think he did.
Andrew.
Try again.
I heard him.
Present.
Can you guys hear us?
Can you guys hear
Okay.
me?
Did I miss anyone?
Are you hooked up to the speaker, Mr. Kolsky?
Yes, I am. I just have my volume down.
No problem, thank you.
Okay. Justin's here. Jennifer O'Connor.
Present.
Jennifer's here. Laura Newell.
Present.
Cody Anderson.
Present.
Stephen Healy. Zachary Remian. Karen Thompson.
Present.
Brian Wells.
Present.
Amanda Ellithorpe. John James.
Ms. Ellithorpe, I see you in Zoom. Are you there? All right, proceed, Mr. Kolsky.
John James. Jacob Cornell. Sean DeGrand.
Here.
Matthew Giulianelli. Aaron Leatherman.
Here.
Keith Redhead.
Here.
Daniel Costello.
Present.
Adam Magoon.
Here.
Craig Shue.
Here.
Mark Brayman.
Here.
Liza Faint. Tim O'Connor.
I am here.
Chris Alinsky.
Yes.
David Penner. Keith Price. Steve Becker.
No.
Is that a no?
No.
Yep.
No.
Jeff Bradley. Tony DiOrazio. Jim Dayton. Angela Einwachter.
Present.
Mark Legowski.
Present.
Sean Phelan.
I am present.
Is here. Mark Smith. Kelly Durkin. John Exner. Aaron Becker.
Plugging in currently.
Maura Botsford.
Here.
Garrett Kane. I am here. Francis Law. Len Warlock.
Here.
Michael Redman.
Here.
Jamie Vandewalker.
Present.
Lee Whitmer.
I'm here.
Juan Ayala.
Present.
Robert Cocomello.
Here.
Daniel Donnelly. Is he?
He's here.
He's here now. Okay. I see him online too.
If I see anybody can full speed, I'll say it. But
Robert Greaveland. Robert. Bill Schmidt.
I'm here.
Chris Fondras.
Here.
Mr. Colsby, Mr. Donnelly is present.
All right. Jeff Denecki.
Here.
John Gunther.
Here.
George Ostrowski.
Here.
Blake Tarnoff.
Present.
Mr. Dayton is also returning from checking out. Mr. Kolsky.
Okay, just mark him. Brandon Tarnoff. Scott Thompson. Angelo Veltri. Robert Schuon. Mark Weinblatt.
Here.
Richard Bell.
Present.
Tom Pinkasoff.
Present.
Okay, we are at we have 14 online, 24 in person, 38 total. Quorum is 34.
Wow, that was close. All right, thank you. We have quorum. We'll proceed with the proceedings. Where we left off yesterday was the election of officers in the executive committee. Precisely, we were in the middle of we've just taken nominations for secretary. We're getting ready to hear statements from candidates. As for today's agenda, treasurer's report was due to be before continuation of election of officers. Without objection, I would like to move that to after the election of officers before committee reports. No objections being heard. We will proceed with the election of the secretary statements in alphabetical order. Dr. Brandon. Eventually, I'll get that right, Doctor. Dr. Brandon, you are free to speak for your statement. I'll give the floor to Dr. Brandon. Right up. Like a lot of years, you want this will be okay. Take that here.
Thank you for your attention and especially for your presence. We all know that 90% of life is just showing up, and in the case of the Libertarian Party, that's going to be especially true for the next few years. And in the case of this body, I want to also extend specific thanks to a group of people that took the opportunity to envision the leadership of this organization as an executive committee and inviting me to participate in it. And I especially want to encourage you to vote for 5 of the people for the at-large positions on the executive committee who are part of this group that took the initiative to try to put together a slate. So in alphabetical order, Maura Foxford, Justin Carman, Paul Grindel, Bill Schmidt, and Karen Thompson. In that, making that thank, the person who I want to thank most, of course, is Andrew Colsty, who it has been the greatest pleasure of mine and one of the biggest surprises I joined the Libertarian Party to get to work with him. I have learned as much from him as I think he is maybe much more. That's one of the things about being in a career in academia is you learn after a long time that what you value more is what you learn from younger people than anything you can possibly teach them. Two of the specific things that I want to thank him for being able to include me on were this summer's challenge of the Independence Party petitions. I'm not sure all of you know exactly what the Libertarian Party got out of that. That was Andrew Polsky's initiative, I believe. He was not directed by any higher up to start that. It was such amazing opportunity to see him operate with incredible efficiency and skill, with being provocative and unapologetic, as Pat Ford said, yet still being gentlemanly and lacking any rudeness. It is a model that I will aspire to as secretary. And the other thing that I have worked with Andrew consistently on over the last few years is on the rules committee. I know that there are some people who get tired of rules, and there are some reasons for having rules. Again, I think it's one of the reasons why in the competitions that we have seen in the last few years between different groups within the party, we've managed that competition well. And again, in terms of the people that Andrew invited to be on this executive committee and encouraged to, he has managed to balance that well. I will try to take his example in that and be very open to having and
Dr. Graven, we kind of inspired.
thank you.
And now here from our other candidate for secretary, Blake Tarnoff. Mr. Tarnoff, the floor is yours.
Hi, I'd like to thank John for his unexpected nomination. And I thank all those who've reached out to me in support, but I've decided I do not wish to take the position of secretary at this time. I would nevertheless, though, like to take my 3 minutes to share my opinion of where the party is and where it can go. Hopefully I will not be shouted down with screams of "shut up" this time. This is a failed organization. It is demoralized, it is depressed. Whether consciously or not, everyone knows on some level that something is not right, something is missing, something is not being said. It is failed and demoralized and depressed because it is hiding secrets. It is hiding its hideous past. The fact of the matter is that this organization is fundamentally, constitutionally, and systemically flawed. It is founded in fraud and theft. It is steeped to this day in cover-up and lies. It has stolen from its victims and squandered their property those victims created by years of dedication and hard work, people who built and succeeded only to have their property stolen and squandered by us. The history of this organization is one that every libertarian would be ashamed of if they were aware. And it is the reason, in my opinion, why this organization has failed. It is the source of the exclusion, secrecy, and elitism that characterizes this organization. Every true libertarian understands the importance of justice and morality and having a firm philosophical foundation. A foundation of theft and fraud can never successfully support any libertarian enterprise. A libertarian organization that is based on an immoral foundation will always be crushed under the weight of its secrets. But all is not lost. For this organization to succeed, it must be cleansed. Once absolved of its sins, this party can once again move forward together in pride and unity. Hiding the truth, pretending it doesn't exist, and hoping it will go away has caused and will continue to be a permanent wound that will take years to heal, if ever. Accountability, atonement, and reconciliation are not looking backward. Justice and sound philosophical foundation are not mere frivolities that should be ignored. They are all essential to a successful future. Had we never gone down the immoral, unlibertarian path of theft and fraud, I'm certain we would still have recognized party status today. And once we have accountability and reconciliation and return to our proud tradition of justice and libertarian philosophy, we will succeed again. Thank you, and I withdraw from the nomination.
We will proceed to the ballot. On the ballot will be Dr. Brayman and no chat. Mr. Ferrera, can you please create the ballot?
That's going to take a second. I got to recreate it.
No problem, thank you.
For the first one, do you want to do 3 minutes today?
Let's do 2 minutes, Mr. Ferrera. We only have 2 minutes.
What was that iPhone setting?
It is.
Open a private window. That's easy way to do it.
He is in the private window.
Cross site
Cross.
something. Ballot is out, everybody. Please vote. Vote like you're in Chicago. Early and
Try
often,
logging in again.
but only if you're dead. We're all dead inside. Correct. I don't have that kind of money. 1 minute remaining.
Joe Kennedy, man, it was so expensive.
I'm good. Thank you.
Free market. Free markets.
All those crates. Yeah. I was cutting into the front porch.
30 seconds. It appears to have expired. Even though I had 30 seconds. Vote results. Mark Brandon, 33 votes with 80% of votes cast. Noda, 6 votes, 15% of votes cast. Write-in, late runoff to the state on this party, 1 vote, 2%. Write-in cleansed in the turnoff back with 1 vote, 2%. Mr. Brandon, Dr. Brandon, damn it, I'll never have to say it again. Dr. Brandon, congratulations. We'll now proceed to the nomination of the position of treasurer of the Libertarian Party of New York. Do we have any nominations for Mr. Whitmer?
I'd like to nominate Keith Redhead.
Mr. Whitmer, we have a nomination for Keith Redhead. Mr. Redhead, are you here and do you accept your nomination?
I do.
Okay, very good. Mr. Dayton?
I've got a nomination. I'd like to nominate you for Heath Anderson.
Very good, thank you. I accept the nomination and I yield the gavel to Mr. Whitmer. Don't bang it on the podium.
No comment.
Hello.
First, we'll start with speeches. We'll go in alphabetical order, as we did yesterday.
Any additional nominations?
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. This is why I'm not doing this. So we got Colsey. Any additional nominations from the floor for treasurer? I'm going to close nominations. We're going to go in alphabetical order as we did yesterday. I believe A becomes before R. We'll start with Cody Anderson. Are these three? 3 minutes?
3 minutes, yes, sir.
All right.
First, I'd like to thank Jim Deaton for the nomination. When I spoke, I had conversations with some people about becoming treasurer and, keeping some organizational continuity. I've treasured before. I've been treasurer for the Western New York Libertarian Coalition, which was the G8 slate in 2020. When we had ballot access, we actually put people on the ballot. I served as the treasurer for Tom Queer for State Senate 52, also in 2020. I also served as the federal FEC reporting treasurer for Tori Alexander, who was a New York 19 congressional candidate, also in 2020. I also serve as a treasurer of the Dollar Endowment based in Northern Virginia. If elected, I will continue the fine stewardship that Ms. Newell has performed with the books for the past. To her, she would say it's an eternity. Anyway, just wanted to thank you for your consideration and may the best candidate win. Thank you.
And now Keith Riddle. I'll be there soon.
Good morning, I'm Keith Redhead from Oneida County. I live in a small town called Boone Village. Probably never heard of it. Or if you want to come visit, let me know. Been working there to organize a county chapter for the last few months. I'm a school board member, the chair of my town planning board, former teacher, small business owner. When we talk about state of defiance, I've lived it. I was fined through my business $27,000 for refusing to comply to the more recent vaccine mandate, passport mandate last winter. I haven't settled. In fact, the county has offered me a settlement of $500. I still haven't settled. I've not been a trader before. I run a small business, able to do bookkeeping, things like that. I would work alongside with Dwayne to do the specific filings related to the Libertarian Party of New York. I do have experience with county, state, federal tax filings for my business, as well as with alcohol, tobacco, trade bureau filings. So I do have some experience, and I'm certain that I could make this up pretty fast. Thanks for your consideration.
All right, turn to voting. TJ, can I get a ballot with Cody Anderson and Keith Redhead? 3
Yes.
minutes, 2 minutes. Oh, and Noda, thank you.
Noted. During the last ballot, 37 of the 40 people voted during the first minute. Do you want 1 minute or 2?
What do you guys think? Two. They want 2.
2 it is. It's been released.
Well, you guys vote. I think we need to talk about JD5 slate, Keith Redhead, who's not a redhead, and Aaron Leatherman is not a man made out of leather. Poll was over.
Been released.
We have a winner. Cody Anderson is the next treasurer of the Libertarian Party of New York.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Great, thank you, everybody. We'll now proceed to the at-large elections.
Pipeline, Mr. Chair.
One moment, please. Mr. Ferreira, you have orders of the day, but I think that is, since you're not voting, it doesn't matter. Mr. Letsky, you have a question of privilege?
Yeah, it's a request for general, not personal, because I believe it involves the entire body. As you're aware, there is a casino next door. I took advantage of the liberty of the casino offering us free $15 as long as we provide them with the ID. I took the state money. I engaged in a little bit of gambling.
That's moral hazard, Mr. Letsky.
It is. And for those who need help, there is a hotline here. It is 1-877-8-HOPE-4. Okay. Contact your local problem gambling resources center to receive support information and or be connected to the problem gambling provider in your community. Okay. That being said, taking the state's $15, I went ahead and I won a little bit, and I'd like to contribute this as your active treasurer. This is a cash receipt that you can collect next door, and it is in the amount of $69.
The only thing I can say is nice. Thank you very much, Mr. Letsky. The party appreciates your donation. Moving on to at-large elections. So we will now take nominations from the floor. I see a nomination in my line from Mr. Deneke. Deneke, who would you like to nominate?
I'd like to nominate Jim Dayton, please.
Jim Dayton, you accept the nomination?
I'll accept.
Mr. Dayton accepts. Very good. Mr. Kolsky, we have a nomination from the floor.
I'd like to nominate Paul Grindel.
Paul Grindel has a nomination from the floor. Do we have any other nominations? Ms. Newell.
I would like to nominate Jeffrey Deneke.
Jeffrey Deneke, do you accept your nomination?
I do.
Very good, thank you. Dr. Becker, do you have a nomination?
Yes, I do, Laura Newell.
Laura Newell, do you accept?
Yes, I do.
Very good. Mr. Dayton, do you have a nomination?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Tim O'Connor.
Tim O'Connor, are you OTP?
I accept and thank you, Mr. Dayton.
Very good. Mr. Absent.
I'd like to nominate Bill Schmidt.
Mr. Schmidt, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Very good. Dr. Brayman.
I'd like to nominate Maura Foxford.
Ms. Boxford, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Dr. Whitman. Ms. Whitman.
Only on Tuesdays.
Ms. Boxford.
Mr. Boxford.
I'd like to nominate Jeffrey Carman.
Mr. Carman, are you on the line and would you like to accept?
I accept.
Mr. Carman accepts the nomination. Let's see, I think, TJ, you can dispose with those motions in the queue, just so I don't get confused. Mr. Grindel?
Nominate Karen Thompson.
Ms. Thompson, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I
Ms. Thompson accepts. Do we have any further nominations from the floor while I take a drink? Mr. Shute?
I'd like to nominate Keith Redhead.
Mr. Redhead, do you accept nomination?
I do.
Very good. Do you have any further nominations from the floor? That is a party going on next door. Hearing no more nominations from the floor for the position of at-large, you'll close nominations. How many nominees do you have? Does anybody have more than 5?
We have 10.
We have
Let me
10.
just looking on.
No problem.
Who was it that nominated Jim Dayton? Was it Jeff Tenecki?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Mr. Axon.
Can you read the names? Because
I'm gonna put them up on the screen as soon as I alphabetize them.
Yeah, Mr. Holster picked them up on the screen. So, Mr. Axon, point of information. Are you a Dr. Axon? Are you JD?
I do have a JD.
I see.
We'll stick it with.
All right, no problem.
A good Jesuit university.
Master X. Mr. Colsty is just for those playing along at home. Mr. Colsty is tabulating the nominees.
Where do we find that?
He's got put up on the screen. And then it will be up on the screen for the Zoom participants as well.
I got it. I'm just making sure I got everyone.
Mr. Alinsky, in point of information, in compliance with election law, for cash and put down as a unspecified cash donation as the member. Well, the nominees are on the screen. They're available to those in the room, so we know who we're looking for. So I know it's not alphabetical order. Ms. Botsford comes first. I'd like to invite Ms. Botsford up to make her at-large speech. Botsford, please.
Is this okay? Can everyone hear me?
You mind being up here just because the camera is.
Sure.
Oh, actually, he's adjusting.
This is so I don't have to adjust
I'm
it.
sure, so you all see me this way. All right, so a lot of you do know me. If you don't, my name is Maura Boxford. I began my career in the Libertarian Party in New York at 18. I worked on Larry Sharp's first gubernatorial campaign. I knocked thousands of doors. I collected thousands of signatures in Central New York to get him on the ballot, to get him voted in the Syracuse area. Following his campaign, I was a college student in Escobar County. I organized several educational voter registration drives and increased young libertarian enrollment in rural Republican counties in 2019. In 2020, I moved to Western New York. I was elected secretary of the county libertarian. And as secretary, I also serve as our fundraising and outreach director. So in the past 2 years, we have raised $15,000 to $16,000 a year for our county committee. I wrote all of our press releases. Some of them have received national attention. I also organize all of our press events, all of our fundraising events, all of our network events. That is all me. So every time you see Dwayne's face on a stage in front of a camera, I am the mastermind behind all of that work. Since being elected to the state committee last summer, I've organized several successful petitioning drives for candidates in Western New York, fundraising for candidates in Western New York. As evidenced by my short time, but lengthy resume in the past 4 years. Obviously, I've had boots on the ground since I've started working politically for the LPNY, and I think that the executive committee needs driven and proven people to set an example for the rest of the state.
Great, thank you, Ms. Botsford.
Mr. Paulson, just a request, if you put the official district of each nominee next to on the screen. Under our rules, so everyone knows may not be more than one at-large committeeman from each official district. So I want to make sure we have believe we have some overlap. Maybe we do.
But people can go up to 5 even for the same judicial district, just whoever gets the least amount is eventually gonna be eliminated.
I understand. That's why I just want to be able to give you the opportunity to choose one person from one judicial district or another. Okay, that being said, we'll move on to Justin Carman, who is remote. Mr. Carman, the floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. I hope many of you have gotten to know me over the last few years, but for those of you who don't, I am the current vice chair of Albany County. I also co-chair the IT committee and served as a delegate for the last 2 conventions and was the LNC representative for the credentials committee in the last year. I'm running for at-large today because I want to bring my skills in IT and personnel management to the party in the top of the ticket, inform something that I think is a little unusual and a little different. We have some goals to go ahead and use technology to help more effectively leverage our volunteers and to help effectively, go ahead and, organize people in different ways that I don't think have been thought about before. I really want to go ahead and make what amounts to like a job board where we can all coordinate with one another and highlight everybody's specific and individual backgrounds and strengths to go ahead and form a party that is overall stronger and more coordinated. I'm a part of the slate because the Colsey slate, because I really do believe in the idea of, we need to rebuild. The party, for a lot of reasons is in a tough place right now, but one of the biggest ones is because New York State is just absolutely, murdering us, so to speak, legislatively. It is going to be a long path forward. I feel like, it's going to be at least, 2 years until we can, even try to get ballot access again. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that interim of 2 years. And I'm here to go ahead and help enable getting that done. I had said in my JD speech that I think really the new currency of LPNY needs to be the work ethic and, helping one another accomplish our goals instead of trying to act so monolithically. Thank you guys for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Carman. Now, the next candidate, James Dayton. Dave, would you like to say something on your behalf?
June. Yeah, I've been around here for pretty much since the beginning, since the transition of from FLP. I like to get things done. I like where we've been moving. I think we've been moving in the right direction over the last few years, and I want to see it keep moving in the right direction. Been part of the Legislative Affairs Committee, the outreach and stuff like that. I was on the Rules Committee for a short period of time. And I don't really like rules parts, but it's okay. So yeah, I just want to see us move forward, less drama, and just getting work done. We've got a lot of work to do, get ballot access again, and I'd be happy to be part of that. Thank you.
Next up is Mr. Jenke. I believe he's remote on OTP. Mr. Jenke, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Cody. First, I'd like to thank Cody Anderson and Eric Cordova for their support in my run for at-large. And I want to make it clear that I'm not running to oppose anything that the Colsey slate is looking to do. But I'm running to supplement that and to bring a different perspective to the executive committee. First, I note that out of everyone running, the vast majority are from upstate New York, other than Mr. Grindel, who is from New York City. And I know that maybe some people think of those as the same, and New York City and Long Island are the same, but they are very, very different. And we have 8 state committee members down here, and we gained some in this last cycle, showing the hard work of our chair, John Gunther in Nassau, to continue to push our message and grow our party here. And I feel that Long Island needs to have a voice in the forward strategy of the LPNY. I am a lifetime member of LP National. I've sponsored this convention and the last 2. I've served on 3 subcommittees. I am a minority business owner in a distribution business and warehouse on Long Island with 40 employees and 6 direct managers. So I bring business acumen and a different perspective on things, and I hope to serve you in the coming 2 years. Thank you for your consideration.
Lauren, thank you, Mr. Denicky. Next up, Mr. Grindel.
Well, you're tall. So we can see that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paul Grindel. I'm a representative on the state committee out of Brooklyn and a currently sitting until the end of this meeting at-large member of the executive board, and I'm running for re-election. So I've worked for a long time on libertarian campaigns, seeing them as sort of the way to get our name out there. Seeing campaigns like Gary Johnson and seeing campaigns like John McAfee, which is what brought me into the party, and then campaigns like Larry Sharp's convinced me about a much more electoral heavy strategy for a while, because we had candidates getting on the ballot. They were very good candidates with solid fundraising. And at the time, I was of the election camp. But after having seen what the state has done to us, done to this party over the last few years, I'm fully on the Tulsi Whitmer activism first, election second strategy. I believe strongly that what we need to do is we need to be building out popular support from specific single issue initiatives that we then network together to form bases of power, so that we can then start to contest specific targeted elections that we can win. And I think that that is how you have elections that represent an actual base of people instead of just running people for office. And so I've served on the rules committee now for 2 years, trying to help us have a document that is essentially rules and constitution, bylaws, procedures, essentially anything that's needed to have something formally written down, this is how we do it, has gone through that committee. And I ended up taking over the candidate support committee when its leadership had left it to basically to die, and managed to keep it alive. And I hope that you re-elect me so that I can continue supporting candidates and I can continue helping Andrew Pelosi and Gwen Whitmer with their plans for this party.
Ms. Newell, you want to make a statement?
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. I have been a libertarian since 1987. I've been voting for libertarians whenever they appeared on the ballot for my entire life. I became a county contact in 2016, and I organized one of the smallest counties in the state into a powerful organization. In 20,
Are we dead?
no, I got it. In 2018, I was elected county chair of Schoharie County. Schoharie County in the 2018 election had the highest per capita vote percentage for Larry. We organized signage and had signs all over the state for Larry. In 2019, I was elected treasurer by the IC, and I was re-elected in 2020. I was co-chair of the fundraising committee, and we had the most successful fundraising event that we've had with the Empire State Freedom Festival, where we raised over $8,000. I was chair of the delegate selection committee, which was a really tough job. And during petitioning, when I saw there wasn't much organizing in the capital region, and there were lots of local events happening, I set up a petitioning ninjas group to get volunteers to the Tulip Festival and other capital region events to collect petitions. I was also in the top 15 of the volunteer petitioner gatherers. I use the same group of volunteers when we need petitions to be scrubbed, and I was able to recruit volunteers to come to Albany to help with that effort. While many LPNY people were in Reno, I spent 3 days in a hotel room scrubbing petitions. Working across political lines with like-minded advocates, activists, I organized anti-mandate protests in the Montgomery-Harry County regions.
Yeah.
Until recently, I was one of the most top financial pledgers to the party. I appreciate the trust that's been placed in me throughout these years. I would like to continue to offer my time, treasure, and talent to the LPNY. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rule. I might find Mr. Donnelly with this information.
Oh, no, it's all.
Okay, thank you. You may dispose of that, Mr. Burrow. Next up, we have Mr. Tim O'Connor, who is OTP from Cape Cod or somewhere in between here and Cape Cod. Mr. O'Connor, would you like to give a statement on your behalf?
I certainly would. And thank you. I'm actually very happy to be running in this extremely talented group of people where whatever you vote here, we're all going to win. We have active, proactive human beings looking to spread the message of liberty. Now, I want to point out that I feel I've been successful in building local coalitions. I've been successful in influencing local politics. And my goal will be to help spread that message of getting local candidates elected, fundraising, and spreading the message of important things like our ballot access battle and the absolute legal corruption that is going on in New York State, where they are limiting our voices and enriching themselves with their money. So politics, guys, and this is an unfortunate reality, but politics is a popularity contest. I am popular in my local communities. I feel like I'm somewhat influential, and I think that I can bring some of that knowledge and decisive action to the LPNY Executive Committee to help spread this message of liberty in our lifetimes. I appreciate you guys giving me consideration. I appreciate the other candidates running, and hopefully you'll give me your vote. Thank you all very much.
Mr. O'Connor, thank you very much. Next up, Mr. Redhand. May I speak on his behalf? Do you yield your time to? I do. Okay, very good. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Magoon for Mr. Redhead.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Adam Boone, and I'm here to endorse Keith Redhead for at-large. I believe he was a little bit modest when he talked about his defiance of the state. The first time I went to his bar, he had a giant sign on the door that said, "If you're here to enforce mass mandates, come back with a warrant."
I knew I was kind of fun in that moment.
He has practical experience defining the state, and he wants to bring that practical experience to the NYLP and that desire for liberty to the NYLP. Keith envisions an NYLP that focuses on building a party from the ground up at county levels through engaging locals on relatable issues and finding, training, and supporting candidates and policies in local elections. If elected, Keith is also willing to lead a personnel committee to organize volunteers, target the individual skills, businesses, and interests of our active members, as well as gathering information from the hundreds of thousands of registered libertarians that aren't yet in our fold. Only by recruiting the silent majority of libertarians can the NYLP have success both this year and in years to come. Thank you for considering him.
Thank you, Mr. Magoon. Next up, Bill Schmidt, 89, is on the Zoom. Mr. Schmidt, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
Yes, I would. Thank you very much.
Very well.
I'd like to begin by thanking you all for nominating me as your controller candidate in this election cycle. I share everyone's disappointment about the way the petition process worked out. However, I don't view this in any way as a wasted effort. I wasn't under any illusion that I'd be packing my bags and moving to Albany, but I thought it was important that I run for this office to carry the message of freedom and liberty, particularly with respect to what's going on in our country financially. And of course, that has a key role in what the comptroller does. I visited 12 county committees throughout the state, either in person or via Zoom, and it gave me the opportunity to meet a lot of people who I didn't know and who didn't know who I was. I also found out that there's a lot of people in the grassroots in our party who don't understand or aren't aware of some of the key significant financial issues that are going on. There's a lot of people who don't know in the Libertarian Party what a CDBC is, a central bank digital currency. There's a lot of people in the party who aren't aware of the insidious role of the Federal Reserve in corrupting our entire financial system. And my speeches gave me an opportunity to make people aware of what's going on. I did 4 podcasts. One of those podcasts went viral in my own neighborhood, in the condominium complex where I live. About a quarter of my neighbors watched that podcast. And the other day I was taking my morning walk, and a gentleman who I didn't know was going to work, and he gave me a thumbs up sign and said, "End the Fed." So in my own little way, I've been able to accomplish some education, not only in my neighborhood, but in the party. And I think education is critically important. And my role, in addition, I do want to grow the party, but I want to expand education. We need to make our candidates and our grassroots aware of the corruption of our financial system. What the Federal Reserve is doing in corrupting our money affects everything else that's going on in the world. Every social ill that we face is either created by or exacerbated by the corruption of money. So education is extremely important. I want to pursue education along with growing the party. I'll appreciate your support, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very nice. Ms. Thompson, would you like to give a statement?
I yield my time to Ms. Newell on my behalf.
Very good, Ms. Newell. Let's speak on behalf of Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Karen is very special. Karen is one of the founding members and is the treasurer of the Saratoga County Organization, which is one of our most successful county orgs. She worked on the campaign for the first elected libertarian in Saratoga County. She has been the chair of the platform committee and was one of the people who answered the call for volunteers that I made for petitioning in the Capital Region. She is so dedicated that even though she was very ill during the Tulip Festival, she still came and collected petition signatures. She's a school choice advocate and a doer, and she would be an excellent addition to the executive committee. Thank you.
I believe you've heard from all our candidates at this point. Mr. Ferreira, if you would please put together a ballot.
How many minutes would you like for the duration?
We're gonna do 3 minutes for this one, please.
Okay. It is released.
All right.
The ballot is out.
Very good, thank you.
1 minute remaining, 37 votes in.
Ballot has expired.
Released.
One are have been released. Karen Thompson, 31 votes, 79%. Keith Redhead, 25 votes, 61%. Bill Schmidt, 24 votes, 59%. Justin Carman, 23 votes, 56%. Maura Botsford, 22 votes, 54%. Paul Grindel, 18 votes, 44%. Laura Newell, 16 votes, 39%. Jim Dayton, 15 votes, 37%. Jeff Dennehy, 14 votes, 34%. Tim O'Connor, 14 votes, 34%. I believe at this point we dropped the lowest vote gatherer. Is that correct?
5/50. That's 5/50.
Oh, yeah, we did get 5/50. That's right. Yeah, got 5/50. I think that calls it. All right, so welcome new at-large members: Karen Thompson, Keith Redhead, Bill Schmidt, Justin Carman, Maura Botsford. Wow, that was all right. We have disposed with our at-large elections. Welcome to the new executive committee.
Is there?
Yes.
Should we clear the cache? I noticed some people are having trouble with the votes again.
That I have no objection to that, Mr. Furlong.
Wait, I should capture.
Oh, wait a minute, yeah, don't do anything yet, we're gonna, thank you. We're gonna, Mr. Colsby's gonna capture the vote totals first, and then we will take a 5-minute recess to give Mr. Ferrer the opportunity to clear the ballots.
I'd like to point out, Mr. Anderson, it appears that we're off to a good start because I'm looking at there are no immediate votes, no invalid votes. Everything just went flawless. This is a sign of good things.
Yes, I think so.
They'll also put the, well, our break time, they'll also put snacks out there, so.
Oh, there's snacks. Okay, very good.
And we're on time.
Sort of. Oh, right, yeah, we kind of got the train back on the rails.
Mr. Chair.
What we're gonna do, everybody, we will take a, actually, let's recess until 11:35. That'll give you 8 minutes to do your business and smoke them if you got them. There's snacks in the other room if you want to grab something. We are in recess until 11:35. Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Oh, yes. Sure.
Was anyone who was just elected not previously a voting member, and do I need to promote them to voting members at this point?
The voting members, they will need to be credentialed. I think, actually, no, I think most of those people were already on the state.
Okay, can I ask Mr. Kolsky to give me a list of anyone who I need to promote?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was talking over to TJ, what was that?
Can I ask that Mr. Kolsky give me a list of anyone I need to promote, if anyone?
There's no one that needs to be promoted.
They're all ran straight to me, TJ.
Okay.
And I've captured everything, so you can clear it.
Okay. Very happy.
This.
Oh, good.
I mean.
So I think we're actually.
Quick question, Dr. Treasurer.
Yes, sir.
Straight off order. Very
Well, we got good at it, but.
Typical doctor, you'll love it. It's a long one. Okay.
What's up?
Here's the thing.
You ready, baby?
I'm ready. Well, I got them.
I. All right, we're returning to session. Mr. Cocomello, would you mind coming in, please? Mr. Redmond, take your seats. Hey, Karen, could you just tell everybody to come in, please?
Okay. Great door.
Everybody's entering it up outside. Be in presently.
Oh my gosh, we look completely fantastic.
All right, we'll continue business now. As I mentioned before, we had that objection, we moved the treasurer's report to right for the remainder of the committee reports. We now have Ms. Newell, outgoing treasurer, with her final treasurer's report. Ms. Newell.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Okay, I'm usually in Zoom meetings, I share this and I cancel, I will just read it to you today. Our housekeeping committee account balance is $3,277.62. Our general fund account balance is $18,387.21. The petitioning committee account balance is $9,336.45. Our total cash on hand is $34,248.60. For August, our expenses were constant contact, $200.07, Grasshopper of $33.58, deposit for this venue of $750, Staples for $327.37 for materials relating to the state fair. We had a legal bill to pay of $1,342.93 and a pre-approved reimbursement to Andrew Posty for $356.36. So our total expenses for August were $3,010.31. Sorry, trying to scroll down. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Our fundraising results for August were $5,133.96. And our fundraising results for the date are $22,184.33. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Newell. Any questions for Ms. Newell? Mr. Axon.
I don't know if it's really a question for her or for the body to consider. I heard there's $9,300 left over in the petitioning campaign. Are there any plans for that money, or is that just simply to be held for the next round?
Right now, that's for the benefit of the candidate. We're going to wait to see what.
There's still bills coming in for petitioning.
Do we know the amount of alleged Larry Sharp / LPNY zoning?
No idea.
You're looking crazy. Okay.
No, I'm not. No, it was more of a, we don't have a clear idea. The campaign is not making requests.
$3,000 in outstanding checks on that account right now. And checks that were written to petitioners that have not been cashed. Again, if the campaign, I asked the campaign to get in touch with me this week and let me know if they had any additional petitioners that they wanted to pay. I did not receive a response.
Okay, the point is that we've all heard, I haven't even been involved this year, and I had phone calls from people who used to be petitioners when I was involved, who were saying, I'm owed money, to which I said, I know nothing. Which is what I always would say. But I would like us, if there are legitimate bills and some cash on hand, obviously we want to pay it.
Yes, again, I reached out to the campaign numerous times over the last 2 months to try to settle these issues. And I was not given information that I needed to pay petitioners. That includes 1099s that we are required to have. And so we cannot make payments to people without the proper paperwork.
Right. Yeah, I think it was W9.
You need a W-9 for them, so you can 1099.
You send the 1099, yes.
Professional, essentially, the sheriff campaign needs to get their shit together and get us what we need to do the right thing. Instead of telling people that LPNY is not paying its bills, like you did with Dr. Dale, which is factually correct.
Correct.
Okay,
That's-
all right, and I appreciate I'll have a summary, which I'll probably
I'll
have.
do much about it. She takes nice, but I'm very frustrated. I was personally hurt when Larry went to the LNC and said that the LNC stopped, or the LPNY stopped paying its bills or something.
Yes.
Because that
was-
did not happen.
That is 100%
That was-
inaccurate. We paid everything that we were given the proper paperwork to pay.
All right, well, the good thing is that we still have some shekels in the bank.
We do, yes.
So if there are future bills that are legitimate, we're able to
The
address
problem
them.
is we don't know because the person that has the information is the sheriff campaign and not recording what we need. So we're stuck. Is there a liability? Maybe, but the people that know aren't giving us the information to make decisions.
That's true.
That is a factual statement.
And one other issue, of course, is we get contacted all the time by subcontractors.
Yes.
We have no relationship, and, you know, what the fuck is this person gonna have to do?
And that's the problem we're having is that we don't know if this person petitioned. Anyone in this room can check and send the LPNY bill and say they petitioned. We don't know.
Right, and to be clear, it was the campaign, with the exception of Sarah Bond.
Sorry?
With the exception of one petitioner, all the petitioners were hired by the campaign, not by the LPNY.
Who hired Darryl? Did we hire Darryl?
We did, and then the campaign took on responsibility for paying.
Oh, come on.
Yep,
All right, so we paid. So
yep,
We paid Daryl as well. We paid Daryl.
did we?
Yes,
I have some.
and there was low value for what we paid.
He did get the second most amount of signatures of any paid petitioner,
Second most.
second most.
Who was the most? Who got the most?
It was, Rami something by like 100.
Robbie Urani.
Rami Irani.
How do we keep him around?
Somebody
All right,
they just
but
grabbed up.
We can have this side conversation later, folks, and then we've established as a matter of fact. So, all right, thank you, Ms. Newell, for your report. We will now move on to committee reports. First on the agenda is local affiliate development committee, Mr. Rigo. I do not believe Mr. Rigo is in the gallery. You see Mr. Colson?
No, but I'm a member of that committee.
Okay, very good. Would you be able to give a report in his stead?
I didn't have anything prepared.
Okay, no,
I'll give, I might have some new business motions to take care of, so some terms don't expire, but I'll prepare that for later.
Very good.
After lunch. But I'll just give a brief report, I guess.
Oh, here you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, as a member of the local affiliate development committee, we haven't me, when I say we, I mean me. There's been, we've been having county contact meetings and, really it's me and Jim Dayton has attended a lot of those, talking to a lot of county contacts, so we're taking those on the first Monday of the month. Certainly we want to come up with different strategies, but that's where we're at right now. There's some potential new ones, there's some, that we need to extend their term, and I'll have that prepared for new business. So that's all I have for local affiliate development.
Great, thank you, Mr. Kolsky. Oh, yes.
And since this is the end of this term, the local affiliate development committee is gonna obviously be some reorganized. In the beginnings, we did a lot of stuff, but I'll specifically thank Rob Arrigo, who did a lot of trainings in the early 2021, and also Paul Seekers, who had a lot of help with that committee as well in the early days. So thank you to them, and there's some others on the committee, and I'm missing obviously, but I just want to give them a shout out.
Thank you, Mr. Kolsky. I also just want to take a moment to thank Mr. Kolsky for filling in Mr. Rigo's stead for some time now. Mr. Colsey has been keeping the county contacts running, sort of keeping track of the county contact expirations and new contacts and things like that. So I'm very appreciative of Mr. Colsey for his efforts in Mr. Ariga's stead. Next up, we have the IT committee, Mr. Kolsky and Mr. Carman. I assume Mr. Kolsky will be giving the report.
Yeah, report.
All right. Mr. Kolsky is on all the committees. Here you go.
Well, now I am now.
Welcome to the party, pal.
So for IT committee, we haven't met in a while, but we have been looking into other ways to improve our IT infrastructure. One of the main pressing things that's going to be coming up that we've been discussing is the managing our data. And we've been using National's Civi CRM for 6 years, and there just hasn't been too much of an improvement. That database doesn't allow us to put the entire voter database into something that we can better manage. They just only allow us to put libertarians in there, or people who have had some sort of interest, but I think it's essential to have all kinds of data on all New York voters, because ultimately that's who we need to reach. So the IT committee, that's one of the things we've been discussing. One of the things we want to do moving forward is find some sort of a database that we can better manage it and have counties go into it with a good, easy to use user interface, so we can manage our data, look back, counties can enter data, state can enter data, and we can just make better decisions when it comes to especially marketing our messages and getting the vote out there. So that's pretty much what I have for IT committee. And then we'll certainly have more projects that we'll be working on. So that's all.
Great, thank you, Mr. Wolski. Do you have Mr. Patel's report?
I will read Rich Patel.
Mr. Patel, mention it now since you were standing there. Mr. Patel could not be here today. He had spent time with family today, but he did send a report to Andrew.
Okay, so this is for Rich Patel. The approach of the Legislative Affairs Committee report. The approach of the committee has been to respond to bills introduced in Albany in January for the spring session. We advocate for good bills and against bad bills in accordance with libertarian principles in an effort to slow the growth of terribleness of state government. This has been a reactive approach. The incoming state committee should evaluate the approach of the committee. Do we want to become more proactive versus reactive and produce or promote a full legislative agenda early on prior to the start of the legislative session to possibly have an impact upon what bills are introduced in January and what they might contain? If we develop a more holistic strategy, then we really need to have a state party platform, in my opinion, for us to use as a guiding beacon. Effectiveness of this committee could also be greatly enhanced through the use of voter voice or similar tool. The new state committee should probably ponder whether their annual cost, probably in the $5,000, $8,000 range, would yield us valuable positive incomes in both legislative performance and growth in the libertarian movement. Rich Patel, Chair, Legislative Affairs Subcommittee.
Great, thank you, Mr. Kolsky, and thank you, Mr. Patel, for speaking report to Mr. Kolsky. Do you have any more reports to read, Mr. Kolsky? Just kidding. Next up, we have Candidates Support Committee, Mr. Grindel. Fundraising is coming later. It's not on the agenda, but we'll have it.
It's right after legislative affairs.
Yeah.
Did I miss it?
Yes.
Okay, I did. Totally missed it. I apologize. Fundraising Committee, Ms. Newell, do you have a report?
No, I don't have a report.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And just want to take a moment just to thank all our monthly pledgers. I had started as a member of the funding committee on the ISC. I had started with a pledge drive in January 2020, which generated about $2,000 of regular income to the state party through recurring donations. I hope that everybody who's on the state committee, who can hear the sound of my voice, would consider making a regular pledge to the party to help fund its operations. We are going to have some other things coming up with the scene that would require our attention and money. So just in the general course of things. So I appreciate those who continue to give and look forward to seeing new pledges from the rest of the state committee. Next up, we have Candidate Support Committee. Mr. Green.
Hello, everyone. So I'm not sure how many people know of the report that I made last time that I had to give a report. So quickly sum up that because it's relevant to the current report. So right now, we don't have a lot of candidates that are running under the LP line for obvious reasons. Most of our efforts were put into Larry Sharp, who unfortunately didn't get on the ballot. And the petitioning is tough right now. We do have two candidates that are running in winnable races. One is Nick Grasso. He's the sitting city councilman, and he's running for county legislature. He is running in a race that is less than 1,000 votes to win, and he's running in a, let's just call it, complicated field right now. His field includes a Democrat who is disliked, barely won his primary, and the person who ran against him in the primary is running on an independent line now, talking about how bad the Democrat is. And then there's a Republican in this race. So some of you may know about a beautiful hero known as William Sharp, no relation, I assume. And he's insane and dangerous, and the Republicans there are considering just abandoning him altogether and soft supporting Nick for his race. Like all I can say is look up William Sharp on Facebook and you'll know when you find him because you'll just know from his posts. So he has a serious chance of winning. He could be able to do what what's his face over in California, forgot his name already, did, going from city to county level. That's very possible. Nick Grasso could be representing his county and be doing it as a libertarian. So we're going to need all your help with that. He's going to need mailers. He's going to need phone calls. He's going to need anyone who's nearby to go to his place and do help him with door knocking, help with text messages, help with fundraising. He has an event, I believe, later this month with Larry Sharp for fundraising. And so at some time this week, I'll be putting out a Google form for people to sign up. And at this point, technically my term as candidate support is up after this meeting, but I'll just put it out anyway, and then if I'm not reappointed, give it to the next person. Because he deserves our support. He's an elected libertarian. He's running in another winnable race. And frankly, other than Paul Seacrest, who basically being his campaign manager from half the country away, we really haven't supported him the way that we should. So I want to change that. The next thing is Craig Colwell. Craig Colwell is running in a three-way race against in a bluish area, but an area where the blue is not, it's blue, but it's not crazy blue. More importantly, the Republican there wasn't picked by the committee. He won in a write-in primary with 4 votes. Craig got more write-in votes, but because of the change in election law, Craig's more write-in votes didn't count because he's not a registered Republican. Can't OTB onto another party line anymore. And so, because even though Craig got more write-in votes, he didn't get the nomination for the Republicans that he thought he was going to be able to get. And so now somebody that no one knows, that no one cares about, is running on the Republican line. And so Craig has supporters from the Republicans who know him as the guy that's been around doing stuff. He needs our support too. It's another one of those less than 1,000 votes to win races at the county level, which in New York State is the functional equivalent in terms of the level we should be going for as the state legislature sizes over in the Western United States. So similar to Nick Grasso, the form is going to be sent out this week. Please sign up, help him with whatever you can. He's a good guy and he has a serious shot, if not of winning, then of doing so well this round that he could win the next round. That is, and the last thing is, we currently are looking to expand the actual committee itself. Right now, it just consists of me, Maura, Dwayne, Artie Sintef, Thomas Pinkasov, and we managed to get Kenneth Mulvena, who was a Gary Johnson loyalist that left the party after it became less Gary Johnson, but has been willing to stick around and help us with our candidates. He went as far as to have gone and moved to New Mexico for Gary Johnson's Senate run. So he's very hard and dedicated on this. But we need more. There's already a couple of people we're talking about adding on, but if you want to be focused on that shit, please message me or Andrew. Really message Andrew actually, and we'll be trying to get you on.
Thank you, Mr. Grindel. Without objection, actually, Mr. Grindel also needs to report on the rules committee.
Oh, boy, yes, we do.
Yeah, so we'll leave, without objection, we'll just skip to Rules Committee in the agenda, and we'll get to public engagement right after this. Grindel, proceed.
All right, Andrew, can you please pull up the document from hell?
All right.
Literally from hell.
Yes.
Forged in flames.
Well, Satan wasn't here to represent the
Forged
Rules Committee. He's busy introducing the Queen to her new arrangements, so I'm.
So we have the devil in the red shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Sharing it. Here we go.
Thank you for updating the agenda, Mr. Furrow.
Get
closer. On my glasses.
Yes.
Do I need to focus on this?
Very much. All right, so.
Much better. Yeah, of course.
So there's a whole bunch of share grants we considering here, but the first one is something that I got informed of this morning. Y'all need to make a procedural parliamentary decision on these rules. I got told this morning that this document did not get mailed out to anyone, which was my presumption that was going to happen after the last Rules Committee meeting, as has always happened. The reason I'm told is that under the way that we're structuring ourselves right now, in theory, what we're doing is that we are a new body which just adopted our old previous rules. So in theory, we're not going through a rules amendment process because we are not like a continuously established party. We're a new body now. So I'm told. So because of this, that means that we can adopt these rules amendments by doing a motion to amend something previously considered to basically amend the motion that adopted our party rules that we did yesterday. If you want to roll it that way. If you think that because we adopted those rules and they say we had to mail stuff, that it would be improper to adopt the rules that way, you can say that we should be not considering these rules at this meeting. So am I allowed to make a motion to ask them what they want to do on this?
It's coming out of committee. You are welcome to do that. Right.
Sure, let's do that. Wait.
I'll make the motion to do the thing.
So, Mr. Whitmer, you're making a motion to reconsider a resolution bring a motion to amend a resolution previously adopted. Very, very good. Thank you. Do we have a second, Mr. Whitmer's amendment, Mr. Colson? Discussion.
Mark.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd be voting on. I don't know what the rules are. I don't know what the proposed new rules are. I can certainly attest to the fact that I have not.
Okay, yes, thank you. I was told that the way.
Favor of not doing it yet, or at least educating us.
And so I was told also that the way that they were distributed by email was that in the email describing all the stuff like the Zoom link, the Porcupine link, there was also a link to lpny.org/party resources, which had a description under it that under the list of things that would be included proposed rule amendments. Yeah. And so that I found that email in my, so it was sent, but I didn't know it was emailed. So I understand your point. This is a tricky one. If we don't go and try and at least do some of these rules amendments, particularly the one about the date for recertification of counties, the executive committee, to keep a handful of counties alive, is going to have to vote to do some sort of like provisional certifying of counties who are clearly, frankly, not in compliance with what like the basic hold X amount of meetings thing. So they can do that. But understand that is something that the executive committee will need to do if we don't adopt at least one of these rules. I forgot which proposal number it is. It's about midway through. Mark.
Yes, I don't believe the executive committee by itself can change the rules. And so we would be the party rules. So the situation with the recertification would be problematic if it was attempted to be done just by the executive committee. So I think what we need to do is to plan If we don't do this today, I think we need to maybe plan a Zoom meeting for sometime in October to get this taken care of. And that might be the simplest thing to give people a chance to review these and still get this done. But we shouldn't do that unless, unless people feel it's necessary.
I was not saying that the executive agreed on everything, except I wasn't saying the executive committee would change the rules. What I'm saying is that they'd have to vote to certify, but basically just under the expectation that they pulled another vote later because they would basically be certifying them without them having completed their requirements, which for some of them.
Provisional certification.
What?
Do a provisional certification.
That's exactly what I was trying to describe and did a poor job of describing. So thank you. Yeah.
Parliamentary agree.
Yeah.
So if we adopt the motion and move to amend the rules that we adopted yesterday, then in doing that, would we then be able to consider these rules one by one, or does that mean we're adopting these rules?
So my understanding of the way that this motion was made, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because parliamentary procedure is not my strong suit, is that this is a motion basically authorizing us to then go one by this. I would say in advance that there's a whole block of grammar changes that are separate proposals that I'll probably be proposing as a single motion. But none of the substantive stuff like the membership system or this county certification system are going to be block vote. That would be hard.
Mr. Alinsky, I see you've made a motion to suspend the rules. The suspension of the rules motion is meant for standing rules of order, not for the party rules. So I think you have the order to request that.
Okay, I actually had the point of privilege first.
Oh, well, we had that too. I was about to address that as well. You also had a new main motion, I think, which is out of order right now, Mr. Alinsky. But your question of privilege is recognized.
Okay, I did it that way to see if I can accomplish an end goal 1, 2, 3. Request for privilege, general privilege of the body was to ask Mr. Polsky how fast can we put out an email to the people in this room and online so we can have a working document to view from our devices. If you were able to do that, we then go forward, suspend the rules, and then put more information to actually work on these.
Well, we will not be suspending the rules. This would be a
A motion to reconsider.
Yeah, it'd be a motion to reconsider.
Which is already on the floor and seconded, so we wouldn't have to create.
That's correct.
Right.
So
it's on the party resources page as under rules committee report.
I also emailed to everyone again.
You just did?
Yeah, I just did.
Okay. Dr. Gillespie.
I think it's really essential that we look at this as time is of the essence and look at proposal 1 and adopt that at least, because we need to start grabbing a hold of our own membership and keep starting those records. And we're going to start losing people rapidly if we don't adopt rule number 1.
I agree, time is of the essence, and I definitely think that it's worth adopting some of these. I do think that they can be reasonably thought about, debated, and voted on, even for people who did not see the email with it in the party rules section. That said, in terms of if we don't do it, we'll lose out on people. It's not until the November election that the purging starts of voter rolls for membership, in whatever counties are going to choose to do that. And so there is time of the essence. It's not quite like they're just going to start arbitrarily. It starts after the election that doesn't have Larry on the ballot.
It's actually already happening.
Well, it is happening illegally, yes, but they have the legal authorization to do it as soon as the election happens, is what I was told by. I want to say it's Gary, but I don't want to. Like, if Pete disagrees, I don't want to, staple his name to it. But I'm pretty sure that was the assessment.
Also, I believe, just as a point of parliamentary procedure, I believe what would be in order here to be considered each amendment as a separate motion to reconsider. So we wouldn't be able to lump in multiple amendments to this.
Okay.
If we could, if the body made that motion.
Well, we'll see how it goes. I think the only thing we have on the screen right now is considering this amendment.
Reconsidering.
Yes, correct.
The amendment. So it's no specific amendment, but it's reconsidering the rules to amend. Am I right?
Well, there's going to be a lot for Mr. Goldstein. It's going to be a lot for people to digest. 17 rules amendments that they haven't seen yet. That would be my only concern.
Mark,
Yeah, can we go back then to what Mark raised, the logistics involved in doing this in a Zoom meeting? Is this something that the state committee as a group would do?
so
So can we send it out and have it at the next state committee?
that is absolutely something that you can do for sure.
Which is in 3-4 weeks or whenever.
Well, yeah, my understanding is there is no next currently scheduled state committee meeting, but the executive committee, or I think it's like a third of the state committee or something, can always schedule one for any time that has proper notice. Or we can right now, even in this meeting, schedule the next state committee meeting. So yes, we can absolutely do that, and rules changes, they're the sole prerogative of the state committee.
Okay, well, then I know that we have 15 motions on the floor already, but my recommendation is that we get this out to people and then we have a state committee meeting soon, because time is of the essence, but we don't have to do it today, standing on one foot, because I certainly have not seen it.
So
I just, as a point of parliamentary procedure, I just want to make clear that the best way to handle this, the floor currently has the motion. In order to have all amendments considered in due course at the next meeting, we would have to vote this motion down.
Yes.
And then we consider them as regular rules amendments at the next meeting.
Yes, and
Assuming proper notice goes out.
And you will also need to make sure to schedule that meeting, and you'd want to do it before like beginning of October. You'd want to do it like as basically as soon as you could. So yeah, so if you want to be going through any it could be one or it could be however many you want of the rules amendments today, you would need to vote yes on this motion. We need to get 2/3. Because it's a motion to amend something previously adopted.
Mr. Colson.
I'm in the queue to speak in favor of this.
Yep, thank you.
I think we should reconsider because proposal 7 is time sensitive, October 6th. And if we can take care of that, then we are flexible between having a full state committee meeting between now and November, just in case the rules committee needs to convene and find other important amendments. I don't want to force us to have a state committee meeting before October 6th, just because of one amendment.
So then what your best option would probably be is a motion to amend to take this general motion that is describing, talking about the rules amendments, and to change it to be a motion to specifically talk about proposal 7.
I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion to amend, but to also include proposal 10 because it's going to make the whole process easier.
Okay.
Proposal 7 and 10.
Okay, we have a second from Mr. Axon, a motion made by Mr. Kolsky. Mr. Olensky, we're on to a new question now, Mr. Olensky, so sorry, we're gonna give this due time to consider. So Mr. Kolsky has amended his motion to original motion to consider only proposals 7 and 10 to amend the resolution previously adopted by the body. Do we have any discussion of this amendment motion to amend? Being no discussion, create a ballot. Shall we amend Mr. Poll? Sorry, to say poll. Shall we amend Mr. Kolsky's motion to only allow consideration of proposals 7 and 10 in his original motion to reconsider?
I'm allowed to vote, right?
You are allowed to vote. Yep, all executive committee members were actually members of the state committee already, so they are allowed to vote.
Mr. Anderson, this will be a poll, not a ballot. And how many minutes would you like it to be out there?
Sorry, is a poll? Yes, standing vote. What did I say?
How many minutes?
Let's make this. Let's just make it 1 minute.
It has been released.
Thank you.
Please vote if you have not already.
Just a reminder, as a poll, this will show up on the past polls tab for everyone.
I was just about to say the same thing, Jay, appreciate it. Shall we adopt the Colsey amendment to only consider polls 7 and 10, 25 ayes, 1 nay, 4 abstentions? Motion carries. We're now reconsidering the amended main motion. There's been a motion to reconsider the rules previously adopted and amend them to include proposals 7 and 10. Mr. Kolsky, I will defer to you to discuss proposals 7 and 10, or Mr. Grindel, however you'd like to handle it. As soon as they're up on the screen, you can put them up there for the benefit of the body.
Okay, let's do 7 first. All right, so proposal 7 strikes out a lot of the time specific stuff for recertifying county. Could you, is there a way of seeing the whole text on there? Like, too small. Let's see. So while I was going through the green part, you can see we've kept hard coding stuff because we kept being dealt with situations that felt one-off. But the new text provides a general flexible process that just has us vote to certify by March 31st of every couple of years. What this allows us to do is it allows people more of the flexibility for some people who want spring, some people who want fall conventions, instead of the way that we had it before, where we have a handful of counties that are, I think 3 of them, right, who are about to be uncertified because they're holding their conventions sometime too late in the fall for our October deadline. So I would strongly recommend you vote to support this text. Are there any questions about the text on the screen?
Can we go back?
Can this in any way delay counties from being certified in any way, or does it just provide them, they can certify whenever they want to?
I don't believe it makes any delay. This is about the recertification of counties that exist, which basically just requires that they've held a couple of meetings and have given an opportunity to elect board.
Yes, Mr. Burgoon, this does not affect unorganized counties. Oh, not innocent.
Andrew, you had a question?
Well, I speak.
Yep, sorry, I'm talking about, flip over to my line. Mr. Colsey, would like to speak for this motion?
Yes, I'm speaking for this motion. Just another background, how back when we had the original certification process for county affiliates was due to when we had interim county organizations following our transition, that a lot of them adopted a inadequate template that was designed for constituted county committees, which are recognized ballot access parties, in which county members are elected at primaries. In those, a lot of those rules, there was no provisions for holding regular meetings at least quarterly, and no provisions for elections of officers. So we remedied that by creating a certification process so that counties could do that. And we created one process. There was also other concerns that some people had with non-compliance of certain counties with their rules. And so we created another certification process so they can come in compliant with that. However, that deadline just happens to be October 6th. And due to the chaos of what has happened with the petitioning and counties, and a lot of counties struggling, because the deadline is October 6th and we can't, a lot of them are not going to be in compliant. Several of the counties are just going to basically be unrecognized in accordance with our rules. So this not only creates a regular process, it also gives us until March 31st if we want to improve upon the process. So I had originally opposed the certification process to just eliminate it, and then we do a case-by-case basis. But the consensus on the rules committee was that we need some sort of process every 2 years. So this gives us more time to kind of hash out any other disagreements between that, because I don't think October 6th is, we're pressed for time with that, and I'd rather have a regular process that takes the dates out and just, every 2 years. Plus we have the opportunity to discuss it more beyond October 6th if we wish to change it before March 31st. So that's why I'm speaking in favor of it.
Thank you, Mr. Colsey. Ms. Whitmer, you're recognized. Speak for the motion on the floor.
I'd like to speak for it too. I know we're libertarians and we hate rules, but there needs to be something in place to help these counties get recertified and remove counties that aren't doing anything. Our slate ran on pushing help to the counties and starting local, and that starts with your county chapter. There's not many of us here doing a ton every day. We have jobs, we have families, we have lives. So, counties starting to run properly and making sure they're at least holding meetings and at least doing something to do the marketing and the outreach. I believe part of joining this organization is accepting responsibility. There should be some sort of certification to make sure counties aren't just going defunct. And then when people are reaching out trying to get involved, we don't know what's going on.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Whitmer. Mr. Axon, you recognize?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to speak both in favor and against. I'm in favor.
One. How dare you?
Okay, I'm in favor of it because we have to do this because we have a deadline and we've got this October 6th hanging over us and our current rule is no good. I'm against it because I don't like the hard requirement of the last sentence, which says county affiliates that fail to meet their such requirements shall have their affiliation revoked. I think I would recommend that it say may have their affiliation revoked, that be a decision on a case-by-case basis that Andrew was just talking about for the future, that we, while we have rules, which being a results-oriented person, we're not really always in love with rules, but while we have to have some rules, I'd rather have flexibility and not require the state committee to revoke county affiliates, but maybe we should change it to say may have their affiliation revoked so that we have that flexibility.
Mr. Axon, your point is well taken. Would you like to make a motion to amend?
I move to amend to change the word shall, the word may in the last sentence.
Second.
Okay, well, we'll take the second. Who made the second? So I saw your lips move, Mr. Whitmer, so I will, I'll put you on the second. Do we have any further discussion on the amendments on the floor? All right, check the mic line.
Mark Freeman.
One moment, please. Sorry, Dr. Raymond, I need to get, I'll never get that right, even in the twilight of my chairmanship. Second, please. Dr. Raymond.
Yes, I'd like to speak for the wording as it is and against the amendment.
So you're speaking against the amendment?
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about our procedure for amending rules that have been proposed. We have a rule that says that people have to have advance notice. There's some question that the degree of advance notice that we had of this particular rule change. But if we start allowing amendments in the state meeting of rules, where does that end? How much of a rule can be changed before there is no longer adequate notice that a rule is being considered completely new?
I can answer that for you. The reason why that this motion to amend was in order is that the way we are doing this is we are doing this as a motion to amend something previously adopted. Essentially, we're not doing this through an actual rules amendment process. We are amending the adoption of the party rules motion that happened yesterday. That's why we can do it now. I mean,
that being acceptable, I would like to then go ahead and endorse this amendment and the general rule change, just because it's going to make my life in the next 3 weeks easier as party secretary, instead of having to send around a bunch of notices to counties that they're about to be decertified.
Dr. Brandon, your point is very well taken. We generally do not want to spring rules amendments on people when they need to be, when somebody chooses to spring them. So your point is well taken. Dr. Glugaski.
Yes, I would like to both speak for the change in the motion and oppose the change in the wording. We do need to do something to address the timing. But the problem is if we make this wishy-washy and we may revoke their, what it does is it says all the requirements that we were expecting of having meetings and organizing, that doesn't matter anymore because we may just ignore it. I think we need to make some rules that are very firm, that people understand that if they form a committee, the committee is expected to do things with these minor things, having meetings. It's a minor thing. having records, the minor thing, every organization does it. And they should do that, and if they don't, we shall expel them as an organization because they're not being an organization. I think it's important that we keep the wording the way it is.
Thank you, Dr. Glasgow. Do you have any, Mr. Goldstein?
So I obviously speaking for this, but I disagree with Mark Legowski in that I think the amendment is good because to change it from shall to may have their affiliation revoked. If we say shall have their affiliation revoked in accordance with Article 12, Article 12 is the revocation process where it requires a hearing to be removed. If we say shall, we're basically implementing a hearing to revoke it, forcing the state committee to do it and go through that process, which was we were going to have an automatic revocation, but has been changed to having a hearing. So having shall doesn't really make sense to have a hearing. May says because you're having a hearing, it may or may not be revoked. That way, the amendment says it may be revoked, whereas shall doesn't make even sense to have a hearing. So I'm in favor of the amendment from shall to may.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Do we have any further discussion? Mr. Olinsky?
I would propose an amendment to the amendment.
I cannot do necessary amendments, Mr. Olinsky. We'll have to wait until this amendment is closed down.
Do we accept the friendly amendment to change the wording further?
You cannot make a friendly amendment. The floor has it. Friendly amendments may be made before the second.
But you could speak for or against this to describe what you want as an addition to this for if we vote only about the other one.
Also correct.
I shall do that.
You must.
I shall speak against the language and say that I think it should be more appropriately worded that the language be changed to shall consider, and that would force a vote, and it doesn't force an outcome.
All right, thank you, Mr. Olinsky. Do you have any further discussion on the amendment to the motion to reconsider the actions previously done?
I would like to move to call the question.
We don't have to move it. I'll just call the question. Mr. Ferrer, if you could please create a poll regarding shall we amend?
You want me to read what I wrote?
Say again?
I can just read you what I wrote and you can tell me if it's the poll you want.
You're not, well, I'm not in that chat.
Shall we amend proposal 7 to change the word shall to may in the last sentence of 11.2.3? Is that what you're asking?
That is fine. Thank you.
1 minute?
1 minute is fine.
Is this a poll?
This is a poll, yep, to pop up on the active poll. Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
It has been released. Sorry to take your thunder, Cody. I just didn't want to retype it.
Oh, no, I didn't take my thunder at all. It's totally fine. I appreciate you doing it. I have no thunder. Only lightning. Polls expired. 27 ayes, 2 nays, 5 abstentions. Motion to amend carries. We're now back to the consideration of the re-amended motion. Shall we, regarding proposal 7. Is there any
change word?
With the change word, that's correct. So we're now, assuming we're done considering proposal 7, we move on to proposal 10, which is currently part of the motion. Mr. Jackson?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were voting 7 and 10 separately.
No, we're voting together. That was the other amendment that we voted on.
Thank you.
We all got to keep on. All right, Mr. Polsky and Mr. Grindel, we've discussed proposal 10.
Yes. Yes, so the point of proposal 10 is that the way that our rules are currently written is that they don't really take effect until we submit them to the Board of Elections. This allows for our rules to take effect, any rules changes to take effect as soon as the end of the meeting where we adopt them. And the reason why that matters is sometimes we need these rules to take effect immediately if they're addressing some form of last minute concern. The concept of them taking effect when we submit to the Board of Elections really is only meaningful when we're a ballot access party, because that's what the election law says. When we're not ballot access, like now, there's no reason why we should be waiting until we have our secretary submit them to the Board of Elections. We should just be able to operate with them immediately, because there's no reason to let the state play us.
Very good. Do we have any further discussion based on Mr. Grindel's detailed explanation?
I have a question.
Great.
So if we remove the part saying we have to file the rules with the state and we get the party status back, is there any negative drawback to not having that language?
Unless otherwise required by election law.
So that's going to state basically put us back where we were.
Yes.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Go ahead, Mr. Magoon.
Do amendments cover additions to the rules if we were to add rule?
Yes.
Yeah, right. So right now, we're only covering the proposed amendments that are on the, that are on.
No, but that is being added to the rule. So I'm saying if we added a new rule in the future, would this language cover that?
Yes, it would.
Correct, yes.
Amending the rule. Yeah.
And everything is subject to further future amendment. Dr. Brady.
And I would like to, again, enthusiastically support this change because it relaxes a little bit of the time requirement for me as new secretary to have to make decisions and actions about informing the Board of Elections about any action that we're taking today. Because Mr. Kolsky and I will have to decide at some point whether or not we're going to even do that. And that would be very complicated and confusing for me to do quickly.
How selfish of you, Dr. Brady. Mr. Whitmer, I'm just kidding. Mr. Whitmer, you were, I saw you in the queue, I wasn't sure if that was your earlier speaking for?
No, I'll take myself, I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem, it's okay. Usually they get disposed of as a queue, but they were not, that did not happen. Mr. Shute, I see you want to call the question. I just want to make sure that we've adequately dealt with anything from the floor. Mr. Colston.
I will also note that this also eliminates the requirement to mail them out, because that's what election law required. And since we're not a ballot access party, as long as we're that, we shouldn't have to follow the state's requirement to mail them out. As long as everyone has an email on state, with everyone. I mean, we could still mail them out if we wanted, but it is tedious. It costs about $150 every time, we do something like that. So it would save us money as well.
Yeah, and just as a point of information, we have been agitating the Board of Elections by sending them every single piece of work, every single piece of paperwork that they required to send them if we were a ballot access party. Frankly, it's sort of a waste of our time, although it's a lot of fun. Oh no, I'm just providing information. Ms. Iwalker.
And I appreciate Andrew's concern about the postage and saving trees and whatnot. What I would suggest though is if you're going to send out something of this magnitude of rules adoption or amendment, make it a specific standalone email and not cluttered with any other business or information. Like it should say action required, and this is a consideration of rules amendment, because we get a lot of emails from other things, outside of the LPNY and inside the LPNY. So I think it would be prudent so that people know this is a specific thing that needs our attention, and we are going to then act on it in a future time. So
great, thank you, Ms. Iwalker. I'm going to address Mr. Olensky's request for information, and then I'd like to put to a vote.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I looked at the bike line. We'll go to Mr. Olensky, then Mr. Axon.
Thank you. I believe Mr. Sharp yesterday made a point to say that there may still be an avenue for appeal before the ballot. My request for information, have all other lawsuits and options to have our party status at this point been resolved? And the reason why I asked that is that this would actually change.
There's still
on the ballot, we would have to file this thing.
As a party. Well, that leaves, to me, it leaves the possibility open if we all require to file rules with the state after Larry gets his ballot access, if he gets his ballot access.
I'm sorry, I was saying, are all the
The legal avenue is
We're all
exhausted.
out lawsuits for our
Yeah.
rights to party been exhausted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're still pending, and it could actually be ruled in our favor, which would give us our party status back, and we would have to file it.
We are still awaiting a resolution of our second circuit.
But to answer your second part,
What would we have to do to then change this back?
we would not have to change it back because it has language here unless otherwise required by election law. And so if we get our party status back, there we go. If we get our party status back, then we would just have to submit this because that's how it legally goes.
That's correct.
Okay, if there's no further discussion. I'm gonna put this to a ballot. Shall we amend rules proposal previously adopted to include the two amendments?
Mr. Ferrera is appointed.
Oh, he's now a member of the party. Do you have something to say, Mr. Ferrera? Just throw it in.
I just wanted to remind people you can remove yourself from the queue by clicking on your name, and that helps me out if you do that after you've spoken, but I will try to keep that clean for you, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right.
The poll is ready.
We're about to. If you can just read the motion to me, TJ.
Sure. It says, shall we adopt proposal 7 as presented in the report and amended, and proposal 10 as presented in the report?
Yes, I think that is fine. That would be part of the motion to consider. That's fine. Which is really what we're doing.
Okay.
All right.
1 minute.
So, just as a reminder, we can do 1 minute, and just to be clear, this is going to require a 2/3 vote, since this is motion to be reconsidered. 2/3 of the body needs to vote this out. Ready whenever you are. Thirty seconds remaining. You may go right ahead.
Since this, as worded in the poll, does not explicitly state that we are then adopting the rules, would it be a good idea to re-adopt the rule?
No, well, that's what we're doing. The original motion, Dr. Raymond, was reconsideration of a motion previously amended. But I'm sorry, previously adopted.
But it's not clear from the wording that's actually present on here that that is what we're doing.
Well, it's clear in the minutes. I think Mr. Polsky has made that clear. I think I did say it before that was what we were actually voting on. Okay, shall we adopt proposal 7, 26 ayes, 2 nays, 4 abstentions, motion carries. Okay, previous rules adopted have been amended as detailed in proposal 7. Mr. Jackson.
Are there any other proposals that require immediate action? Seeing
not in my opinion, to be honest, the closest one that would be and time sensitive is the membership change one, but frankly, we have until November for that, and so it's not like super time sensitive for this meeting. And it's also pretty involved too. It involves value judgments that I'm sure plenty of state committee members will have differing opinions on, and so probably better if, since no one got the notice in a meaningful way, to hold off on that one.
In that case, my request is that we table any further rules changes today for the next state committee meeting. That, and as previously suggested, we have a separate email with that, not a drop link to a box to a something else.
Can I second that?
Well, it's not really a motion. I think you can just not choose to have any other.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Doesn't require a motion.
The simple answer is do nothing.
Okay, I can do that.
Which fits into the new Raymond policy of if I don't have to do it, that's. Raymond got.
But we would actually make it incumbent on us. We would be
shall.
Right, we will have to, it's not something we can bypass, just a directive that will take this up.
So, well, I think the rules committee understands that. I think the memos will be sent out. The chair and the incoming chair will call state committee accordingly because it's going to be.
The other option is, if people want to make a motion at this meeting to hold a state committee, like to plan when the next state committee meeting is, that's also an option. I don't think it would be proper for this report though, right?
Oh, no, it would not.
It would be new business.
It would be new business, or the chair can just call me.
Okay, that's right. Good point. All right. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Now, continue on to you. Now, yes, Mr. Shute.
I wonder if you could, give us some guidance as far as if in-person people are supposed to use porcupines and make motions, or whether we're supposed to raise our hands, and we could all do the same thing.
I would prefer everybody use porcupine. Our in-person meetings are kind of frequent, so I think people feel sort of inclined, especially old school people like Mr. Jackson, feel inclined to sort of raise their hand and do the old school meeting thing, which is fine, and I'll allow it, but I would request people make the motions in porcupine, which makes my job harder, but it's all right. I do have to watch that microphone. Actually,
I need a favor. I have to use the bathroom.
Yep.
A little better, but I'm supposed to be next.
Okay.
Can you skip me, come back to me?
Without objection, we will skip, hold on, we'll skip public engagement committee, or I'm sorry, we'll postpone it until after the platform committee report from Ms. Thompson.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, very good. Why don't you hurry up and go, Mr. Whitmer, and I'll speak slow.
All right.
Fortunately, not 50, it might take you longer. The special committee on the judicial committee, I don't believe Ms. Brodell is in the gallery. Is she? Give her report.
She is not there.
Okay, very
There's
good.
something in the queue though.
All right, looking at the queue, please hold. I will just in deference to Mr. Whitmer's potty break, I will would you like to make a motion, Mr. Polsky? Would that be in order right now? I don't think it would be because we're not in new business yet.
It's pertaining to that committee.
Which committee?
The special committee on the judicial committee.
Unless the recommendation is coming out of the committee, we shall not vote on it.
Okay.
And certainly, I think I know what motion you want to make. And we will wait until new business, and I will definitely entertain that.
Do you know?
I think I do.
Let him state it.
No, you're not. So, Mr. Axon.
Well, actually, I have I guess, quite personal privilege. I'm
Yes,
going
sir.
to leave after the luncheon speaker.
Okay.
So I may not be here for your business, but I would very much appreciate if we can schedule the meeting before we break for lunch.
I think, well, that will be, I think, I have a feeling, knowing the incoming chair, you'll probably make the motion to hold the meeting on a specific date in the future, because that's the way it rolls.
Yeah, if we could set that, I would
Very good. Without objection, I would like to allow Mr. Polsey appears to have Hanston stance about a couple of questions. So I would be happy to allow if there's not under new business. I'd be happy to allow you to make your motions now rather than under new business if you have them to make the ones that you want to make immediately anyway, and that Dr. Kramer's.
The motion that I was going to make pertaining to the committee.
That one, and you may want to make another one about maybe a state committee.
Oh, a state committee meeting.
We're gonna be Calendly, I think.
Let's let me look at the calendar.
Well, why don't you make your first motion first, and then Mr. Whitmer might be back and we'll stall for you.
To look at the calendar.
Well, no, well, you had the other motion you wanted to make.
The other motion.
Yeah.
Can I make the motion? Do you think?
The motion I think you're gonna make.
Andrew, stay away from the fifth, that's your report.
Okay, well, I'll make the other motion first.
What?
Motion to dissolve the special committee on the judicial committee.
Very well. Do we have a second to from Mr. Dayton? Do we have any discussion about the motion on the floor, Mr. Colstein?
Yes, even though even though we haven't acted on anything, the special committee on the judicial committee, Millie had indicated that she had resigned. I never received any resignation. But the committee had completed what it was trying to do, which turned into a sort of a conflict resolution thing that was put to the rules committee. The rules committee discussed it in depth. There was made a motion to make a recommendation that we adopt it. That failed. So Mark Brayman submitted it to me to propose. So the language is done. The work of that committee is done. So just so we're not having the report on again, since that committee hasn't met in a while, I'd like to just dissolve the committee. So.
Second. Well, it's already been moved in second.
Who seconded that?
Mr. Gates seconded it. I'll note your third, Dr. Green. Any further discussion about the motion on the floor? Very well, put it to a poll.
Yeah, I had a request for information.
Oh, you did, look at that, it just popped up in the last minute, so I'm sorry. Mr. Muskie.
No, I just wanted to address Andrew's point, right? That it was the work of the previous committee is already at any time we can pull this up further discuss it. If the body would want to go further, you're just looking to dissolve the committee. But if this body wanted to take up that work, the rules committee has to work with the last documents of that. So what you're saying is we could potentially go forward with another committee if any type of body to take that up. Or just get a rate of
That's possible because the language had been vetted by the rules committee. It's possible the body might want to change a couple of things and refer it back to the rules committee for further amendments.
Or maybe a new
Or
committee.
create a new committee if they wanted to.
The other thing you may recall, Mr. Alinsky, the provision for the judicial committee was actually removed from our rules. So really, the whole discussion of the judicial committee is really in the special committee had to do with memorializing it in the rules if we choose, if the body chose to come back.
It's gone but not forgotten. This body can take it back up procedurally if one.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct. And the body can take up anything they want to. Okay, so we're going to put this to a poll, please. Mr. Ferreira, shall we dissolve the special committee on the judicial committee?
It has been released.
Thank you, Dr. Bilasky. This should make you very happy since we're not calling it anything the judicial committee.
Any other committees we can dissolve?
We can look at the list later, Dr. Becker, and come. We can come up with something at the next state committee meeting.
Dissolve ourselves.
Mr. Whitmer. Mr. It's like Breaking Bad. Mr. Whitmer, you after this poll is complete, I'll let you have the floor for the public meeting. Like we decide to dispose of some stuff that.
If you want to vote, you can vote.
I already voted.
Oh, you did vote. Okay.
I only need one hand.
All right.
Stop voting.
Stop voting.
Poll is complete. So we dissolve the committee, name special committee on the judicial committee, 24 ayes, no nays, 5 abstentions. Committee is dissolved. Thank you, body. Moving back to undisclosed business, Mr. Whitmer with
you can wait till the end of that and I can explain.
with the public engagement committee. Mr. Whitmer.
Thanks, Coach. Hello, I'm Dwayne Whitmer. For 2 years, well, not for 2 years, I took over public engagement chair in committee March, April. And when I ran in 2020, I said this, and I still believe this today. Outreach is the most important part of what we're doing, because if you own a business, they're not going to go to your business and patronize your business if they don't know you exist. How can we get votes? How can we attract talent? How can we retain talent if no one knows we exist? There's 19 million people in the state, 21,000 libertarians. So we did that. We focused on outreach, and I'm going to retain some of our greatest hits. One thing we did, and I think we should take a lot of credit for this, is we pushed people not to take the census. It got statewide press. It got a lot of press. And it led to the absolute chaos and destruction that led to redistricting. I think that's a win for us. And our statement on that was limit progressive New York's influence on the rest of the state. Don't let New York State take down the rest of the country with a bunch of progressive Congress people voting progressively. It went well. As you guys know, we did lose a congressperson by 84 people taking the census. If you do the math, and we got statewide press, and we're still getting some press on that after the redistricting. Some station reached out to us and asked us if we regretted what we did. My answer was no. I just regret we didn't do it more. I took that as a win. We were also vocal opposing the lockdown, but yes.
I live in Carolyn Maloney Heads district, so I'm very happy.
I'll take $20. Don't make sure I get money. Another thing we did is the lockdown. And I believe that the Libertarian Party had the perfect response to the lockdown. The Dems wanted everything locked down and just to give out free money and just pay people to stay home, which, hello, inflation. And the Republicans' response was Democrats bad, COVID is a hoax. And we had the answer of letting counties rule, opposing mandates, opposing government force. And a lot of people across the state attended. I know, Becker, you were there all the time. I saw your little coat. Laura said she opposed, she was at these rallies. Cody, you were there, Pietro was there. A lot of people gave unemotional and intelligent responses to the lockdown because that is something lacking. And I like to keep Redhead mentioned, the state finds you. Good job, proud of you. And we came out vocally against the lockdown. Most of us were professional, and then I was part of a gym that shouted at the sheriffs and forced them out of a building, and that wasn't very professional. I also don't regret that. I would do that. That was a good win for us. It got a lot of press, and it let people know where the Libertarian Party stands. And it was cheap because we don't have a ton of money to buy polls, buy ads, buy sponsorship. When local people are doing things locally, we can grow the party. Trying to rehash other wins. Another win, Steve Milano, who isn't here today. We were followed by a Netflix shooter for a few months to speak about our Second Amendment still existing in Western New York, kind of like the pocket of the resistance. New York State's passing the gun laws, and we are openly not complying with it. And Netflix shooter followed us around. It led to us working with, if you guys remember, the Jewish organization downstate. There was some. Yeah, thank you, Rockland County. Steve handled most of this. I just got to go around and shoot stuff. We worked with that group that were they were openly resisting the gun laws because they were worried about getting attacked.
Those are the synagogue attack.
Yes, yeah. And so Steve Waldman is friends with Steve, and we went down there and trained, and they took video and content of us training these people on how to resist an attack, what to do if you were gonna get attacked. And that was a good time because it opened up people that said, Second Amendment rights are everyone's rights. It's not just for, as Kathy Hochul pushed with her new law, and when it was challenged in court, the challenge said, well, you realize that one of the statutes you're opposing was to disarm the Native American. And they said, yeah, we know it's racist. So, our stance of gun rights for everyone reigns supreme. I'm forgetting something else. The Senecas. We reached out to the Senecas, a forgotten group because they don't vote, because they're on their own territory. We were able to build a coalition with them and get massive nationwide press where we spoke out against New York State stealing almost $1 billion to fund a stadium, and that's not over yet. We're actually still in talks with the Senecas. They couldn't make it this weekend because something was yesterday for voting, and their council meetings are today, so they couldn't attend, but they're thinking about us, and they really want to work with us. And they actually want a coalition build on a couple different programs and ideas. And I believe that working with them, an underrepresented and kind of forgotten group, is important because their voice matters as well. We actually have something upcoming with them. For those who don't know what happened, Senecas, there was a dispute with the casino. New York State took the money out of their bank account. That money was earmarked for their territory's healthcare, education, daycare, solving their addiction and crime problem on their territory. This was earmarked to help the welfare of their people. And we took it and we gave it to the Pagulas, who are worth $6.8 billion, and the NFL, who makes $17 billion a year. So what our next plan is, when they do the groundbreaking and Kathy Hochul comes out of her cave to do the ribbon cutting, we're going to plant a Seneca flag where they plan on doing the digging, and we'll let them once again take it from the Senecas, as a sign of solidarity. That's not over yet. We're still fighting. There's lawsuits going on that we are involved in. Jim Ostrowski himself, actually, I wish he was here about this. This was a long time ago. We're trying to revive this. He did a lawsuit essentially nullifying and abolishing corporate welfare in New York State. And as we know with court cases, we were right. He should have won and he lost. We want to get the band back together because if you know some of the people we sued, the name will sound familiar. I believe it was Skelos resigned in shame. Schneiderman resigned in shame. Colwell resigned in shame. And I forget the fourth dude, he's now in jail for a bribery kickback scheme. So we kind of want to get the band back together on that and say, we were right. You guys dropped the ball then, let's do it right this time. If we win, we essentially end corporate welfare in New York State. I think that is a massive victory. If you guys follow the Hopeful campaign, bribery and kickbacks are kind of her thing. Weed Business gave her money, got a kickback. Sign Company gave her money, got a kickback. Delaware North gives her money, gets a kickback. Like Jim said, buying a politician is also a great win. So one thing we want to do going forward is focus on local issues and work with the counties. That's one thing I didn't do very well. Even in Erie County where I live, if I'm in Buffalo, their issues are different than where I live in Hamburg. Their issues are different than if I go 20 minutes south to the border of Wyoming County where there's like 8 people. And I want to start working with the counties to put targeted information out because where I am, people care about Second Amendment, even dividing the state. There are people in Western New York who literally only won their race because their whole thing is divide the state. Downstate, you guys don't care about that. So if we come out talking about divide the state, no one downstate is going to care, take it seriously. We want to start doing targeted things to focus on what people need to see in certain areas, because doing that is going to help with outreach. I don't think people in the city, I don't think the 2A is their first issue, but I know people out. What?
Should be.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. But you know, we need to find what these people's issues are. We did a poll. Erie County LP did a poll, and it got some good responses. Got a lot of trolls. The progressive left hated me and sent me a lot of death threats through it. But you know, we saw the big things. They care about budgeting, taxing. They care about spending, and we're going to stick to that. But we want to see what's going on locally that we can reach out and make these connections, and then give it to our local areas to say, hey, people care about this. Let's get involved. Outreach just isn't media. It's boots on the ground. It's making connections. It's shaking hands. It's going to town board meetings. I got to go to a town board meeting. Hamburg, just to put this in perspective, Hamburg, New York, where Maura and I live, they wanted to start implementing a tax on bonfires. If you wanted to have a bonfire, every time you had to go and spend $25 and get a bonfire permit. So I spoke. And I had some words about that. And how it ended was I said, how are you going to enforce this? Are you going to send the police to pour water on some kid cooking hot dogs? Do you think you're the good people? What if, and I asked them seriously, I said, guys, if I have a bonfire with no permit and you come and give me a ticket, I'm going to put the ticket in the bonfire. What happens next? Are you going to arrest me for not having a bonfire permit? Are you going to put me in jail? Are you going to take my house? How do you enforce this and where do you draw the line? Because if you think you're good in this situation, you're psychopaths. And so I ended with, if they pass this fine, this permitting system, I made a flag. I should have brought it. It was come and take it for the bonfire. And I said that every Friday at my house we'll have an underground unlicensed bonfire, and everyone's welcome to come. And I will resist. And we're going to have it, no permit. We're going to openly flaunt it. And they decided not to do a bonfire permit. It is a really stupid minor victory that should never have happened. I'm not proud of that victory because it's stupid we even talked about that. But this is what people in New York are doing, and we need people all across the state calling this out, pointing this out, and going to these meetings and pointing out the hypocrisy. I love you guys. I cannot travel across the state as outreach chair. I can do it every so often for big things. I can't do it. You guys don't pay me. That free 99 that I get just isn't paying the bills. So I can't travel the state. I can't peruse the state on a weekly basis. I'm not Nick Langworthy, paid 150 grand a year to be the Republican Party chair and just do, you ready to rock? and do his thing. We don't have that money, we don't have that resource, so we want to start helping local people. Falano mentioned doing media training, where we can get you guys doing media events and showing up and getting some stuff. We want to start pushing it out to the counties and giving them assistance to see what they need. Because I do believe that's where we fell short, and I'll take the win for that. I gotta do better with that. So that's if I'm picked to run the next outreach committee, that would be my goal. So that's it. And then the last thing before we go, I'll turn this over to Colsey. I think the biggest thing we did was knocking off Lee Zeldin from the Independence Party. Very well, we're going to be going forward is we use the Democrats' connections to get me there. We gave it to them and said, hey man, we're on it. What do we need? And they put it out there as well. You see a bunch of Democrats commenting on this. It's still in the news, it's still in the media. This is recorded, right? So can't say too much, but Whitmer for Liberty and his attorneys may have something coming for Lee Zeldin in the near future. So it's not over yet, and Zeldin, we're coming hard to him because Zeldin sucks. Sorry guys, sorry to hear. He's gonna lose anyways. Sounds like a Zeldin problem. But I want Coles to come up here and talk about what he did, because this was a massive win for us, because we essentially potentially ended Lee Zeldin's political career. If he loses in November, he's no longer in office. So come up here.
Without objection, we're orders today, call for lunch, without objection, we'll give this. Yeah, I might put that. We'll give Mr. Wilkins 5 minutes now. Yeah. Okay, we'll just extend to 107 without objection.
Yeah, so this is our first day committee meeting since we had those challenges. So some of you know the details of it, but I'll give a rundown of what happened. So I was in Albany with a bunch of people, Cody, Laura, several others who were helping with preparing Larry's petition filing. And at that point, we had heard, that Zeldin may have gone for another line. We knew the parent party. We didn't know that there was other parties involved there. There were some rumors about maybe an independence party resurgence, but we didn't know to what extent. So after we filed the Larry petitions, we're just trying to see who all has filed. Come to find out, Zeldin filed this petition or his campaign for the Independence Party line, which the Independence Party, as you all know, lost ballot access with us, like we did in 2020 when they ran Brock Pierce. Prior to that, they ran for the ballot access races to, they're not really independent. They endorsed Cuomo 3 times. Prior to Cuomo, they endorsed Spitzer. So they always got ballot access because they nominated, major party candidate. So we came looking at that, and Dwayne and I started counting up the number of signatures, because it was a massive amount of pages. It looked like he had way over what he needed. And when we came down to it, we found that he had about 53,000 signatures, which was 8,000 over the threshold. And I had already had plans on going through and submitting the challenge, and then we started putting a team together to go through it, which I'll just give a shout out to Craig Shute, Mark Raymond, Chris Linsky, Justin Carman, Dwayne Whitmer, Jeff Benecki, and then members of Diane Sayers' team was also helping us with that. So we realized that there were 7,000, 8,000, and if a party that made it that was impossible, they would say like, oh yeah, 45,000 is not. Zeldin did it, even though we all know that he's a major party candidate. So we started to go through, started noticing some duplicates, and then after, with the help of the Sarah campaign, come to realize that there were some photocopies. So Chris Linsky actually traveled to Albany and actually looked at the documents himself. You can ask him about it. Some of the things he saw and some of the things that went on before the elections were very, very, very concerning. We ended up finding over 11,000 signatures on over 900 sheets that were photocopied. Of the 7 independent candidates running for governor, Larry Sharp got more signatures than. That Larry Sharp has a lot more support than Lee Zeldin based on number of signatures. So then we put that out there and we challenged it. Their attorney for the campaign didn't show up, was John Champoli, and we've dealt with in various areas. No, John Champoli did not show up. We had gone through, and there was an additional 2,000 signatures that we threw out, and there were some things that they decided not to throw out, which I sent them the list, and they actually threw out another 50 signatures. It didn't matter, but it was just like icing on the cake, knocking Zeldin off there. And once it was finalized and the Board of Elections, the commissioners voted on it, Zeldin's officially off the ballot. We released a press release, and boy, did we get some media. It was seen in various news sources across the state, Times Union in Albany, it was in the Newsday, there was in several places in Long Island, Eastern New York. There was a couple mentioned in some national sources as mentioning what's going on near politics. There was a section in Politico, Fox News mentioned it. Then there was also an article in the New York Times, which also, while everyone was focused on specifically the Zeldin petitions and the fraud, and the Democrats had a field day with it. The New York Times actually ran an article where they mentioned the copies, but also the fact that basically because of the ballot access threshold, and the only way to beat those is to cheat. And so essentially, the article was basically about how the attempt to kill third parties and being the first time since 1946 in which there's only 2 choices on the ballot for a governor candidate, and the second time there's 2 choices for governor since 1872. So we got a lot of media from that, and we're kind of still riding that media to just show the unfairness of the ballot threshold, the killing of third parties. So that's what we've been pushing through this. So it was a great opportunity. Thank you, Zeldin, for your team screwing up. Yeah. But and funny things also, his team at first denied that they knew about the photocopies. And then as time went on, it was a grassroots effort. And then you get some of the people or Republican officials who actually signed and distributed petitions. Then we come to find out that the grassroots effort, the petitions were assembled at GOP headquarters. And then
having a printer.
and also, well, they don't have a photocopier. They're team members on the Zeldin. We don't even have a photocopier. Yeah. So,
But they rent one. That's
what they rent was according to FEC reports. That was one of the journalists found FEC reports that they do rent some printing services. So it is in there. Following the story is quite what went down, but yeah, that's what we did, and got them off the ballot, and it's still going, and we'll see see if this helps us, and it certainly helps make our case of what went on, but that's the story of the Zeldin petition. If you want to learn more, you go to zeldincopies.com, which thanks to a couple of news articles and this website also being linked in the New York Times article, we did get some traffic there, and people have shared it all over Twitter. So that was fun. That is all.
Thank you, Mr. Kelsey. Thank you, Mr. Walker. And just to be clear, I literally had nothing to do with this. I was bought in a hotel room for 4 days in Albany. I was exhausted. Mr. Whitmer and Mr. Kelsey took this upon themselves to get this done, not in my direction at all. And it was a great strategy too, because it was incumbent upon us to get it knocked off to make sure we could prove that no one else could get on the ballot. So there you go. So thank you both for spearheading it. Thank you to the volunteers across the state who did petition review. I know Dr. Raymond was involved. I know Jeff Deneke and Long Island was involved. So thank you all for your efforts, and Chris Walensky, of course. But please, it was a great effort. I don't think so. We can sort of dispose of new business if new business. If you might want to make a motion, Mr. Kelsey, about a state committee meeting. I don't know if you're in a position to do so, or if you just want to call.
Some. We could have lunch, or unless we want to have lunch.
I would like to dispose of any new business and get this done and
Okay.
present
guys who are waiting on Zoom.
Can we set a date? That's the.
Yes, yeah, I know, I would, we also have people for Ricardo, who's hopping on at 1:15.
Okay,
so-
I have, because I have
So
a few.
let's tell you what, let's not adjourn right now. Let's make sure, let's be in recess for lunch. And Mr. Colston, you can, hey, you know.
Can we set a date now?
Well,
Sunday, October.
Hold on, let me look at the calendar.
I'll let Mr. Colston do that as well.
Because I have some county contact reappointments I'd like to do before they expire.
I understand that. If you have those to do, let's get them done now. There's no objection. Mr. Gunther, then Ms. Newell.
Well, I have enough information. If I want to amend, your rule, about speeches, do that in.
That the speech rule is a standing rule of order that's done by, so that's something that we suggest to the chair, the incoming chair, when he is, we can suspend the rules if there's something about speeches, but I think we don't have any speeches because we elected everything.
Okay, because I want to amend something about it,
Well, I think you can have that conversation with the chair, he'll be responsible for setting the standing rules of order. Ms. Newell.
I have a motion to recess, Mr. Chair, and my motion is only for 5 minutes so that not only Mr. Whitmer could use the facilities, but that all these other people have been sitting here all morning.
Well, Ms. McArdle is actually scheduled to go online at 1:15. So if we might have to just, I think what we have to do is we have to go do our lunch recess and then come back and Mr. Kolsky can dispose of his motions. Unfortunately, I was hoping to knock it out, but we were ahead of schedule and we weren't. So.
Well, we're gonna be ahead of schedule based on business. We'll probably finish at 2 instead of 5.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, we will be ahead of schedule, but we can't.
Like 2:30 instead of 5.
Okay, we're on lunch recess and Ricardo will be regaling us at 1:15. So please grab your lunch, come back and let's listen to Ms. Ricardo. We're on recess.
All right.
We can always change the rules if we want to for the next 3 hours.
Andrew, do me a favor, look at Sunday.
Hold on, let me.
Sunday. Because the middle of the week is Jewish holidays, in the middle of the week before. is Jewish
Let me
holidays.
just check this audio real quick. Angela, could you unmute so I can get your audio, okay?
Hi there.
Okay. That's, yeah, just start talking and start counting.
Can you guys hear me okay? I'm happy to wait a few minutes if you guys need to step out for lunch. I'm not in a rush today.
There's lunch is right next door. We're gonna grab it and come back. So we're gonna.
Yeah, I was just wanted to, so your audio is good, so.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna hang out. You let me know when you're ready.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, Angela. Sorry, we got Ed, then we got behind. Thank you.
Wow.
I've actually come out of like hour and a half.
Yeah, everybody, if you subscribe to lunch, go back and come back. So we can second.
Sunday after lunch. I mean, I guess in order for the rules to take effect, I don't think there's a person immediately and sometimes. So I don't want it too close. I don't want it very short, so I don't think those committee have a chance to find the proposals and all those things. But I also want to have some time, and I also don't want to get it. So if I could make it October 23rd. Probably not the week before. I'm gonna try stuff on there.
For the
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I already feel.
Yeah, I don't want to have them too close. Like, that's all business now. I know. Well, I'm solving problems.
Just have a date.
I'm sure like after, after that's probably. Yeah, so what we'll do, because that's has to change, and you made that motion in the meeting for people like me and our.
Oh, look at that cheesecake. Ah, that's good.
Is cheesecake keto, Cody?
Huh?
Is cheesecake keto?
Here's the thing.
I don't know.
Cheesecake, yes, you have to make cheesecake with avocados or
So how many
he's making all smooth jelly.
Yeah.
And it's high.
There's non-sweet Joe. There's non-sweet Joe.
Oh, so like, probably can't keep for that.
Have my
No, I can't.
25 seconds.
I mean, I'd say like.
Yeah, something so,
It's like, high up the parents.
yeah.
Yeah. Excellent, yeah, I get it. I try to help people. Everything okay? Bias.
Yes. Yes. Yes, ma'am. There's a lot of. Yeah, we would have to change the price. And a number of times. I'm back. How's that?
Yeah.
Our team decided that because we were the team with the deficit name recognition, we had to start early.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
If everybody could join us in the grand ballroom here for business photo.
We'll see.
Yeah. It's always time for that, even the last minute.
It's the LP.
Pardon me?
It's the LP, what you expect.
Well said.
General.
Hi, Angela. She came here.
That's Mike Tremont.
Oh, walk in front of the, you all bring in front of the camera.
Walk in front of the camera.
Is there? Right there. The blue ones, blue lights on to your 3 o'clock.
Thank you for doing this.
Hey, you're so welcome. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. And John is waiting for the buffet line to clear out. I asked them all to come in here to eat lunch, so
Yeah.
they'll be here.
No problem.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
no
your
problem.
Is that Angela will have a bigger positive following as time goes by. That's my prediction. Not that I haven't been wrong about a lot of things in my life. But that's my prediction. I really don't know what the step is. You're gonna have to, though, right? All I mean is there's work. It's automatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It requires some. Rules.
Well, I can see the finish line. I'm getting that runner's high.
I understand that one very well.
What time are you gonna?
Oh, like that.
Right now. Okay, because I was recording and I was
How about
waiting.
now?
Yeah.
All right. We're still on recess, but we're having a lunchtime speaker. All of you are familiar with Angela McArdle. Angela is a paralegal from Los Angeles, California, now in Austin, the freer state of Texas. She is a former chair of the Libertarian Party of Los Angeles County and the former secretary of the Libertarian Party of California. In 2017, McArdle ran as the Libertarian candidate in the special election for California's 34th district in the U.S. House of Representatives. He ran for the same position in 2000 primary election, placed third over 5,500 votes. McArdle was a member of the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus. In November 2020, McArdle announced her intent to run for chair of the Libertarian National Committee. She's elected at the LNC's National Convention held in Reno, actually Sparks, Nevada, at the Nugget Casino Resort over Memorial Day weekend in 2022. And now coming to us live from what I believe to be Austin, Texas, is Angela McArdle. Let's have a hand for her, please.
Thank you guys so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I wish I could have been there in person, but I had just moved about 2 weeks ago. And I'm almost 7 months pregnant, still moving around, but it's starting to get to that point where it's iffy as to whether or not the airline will let me on the plane. So the spirit is willing, but the law is strict. I want to say, I know you guys have faced a lot of challenges over the last year, really the last couple of years. And I know that it's demoralizing to work so hard for ballot access, only to be faced with criticism from people all around you, fighting, and a rejection by the courts. You would not be in this position if the government of New York did not see you as an existential threat to the status quo. So I hope you take heart. You are absolutely doing something right, and people in positions of power have noticed. I really appreciate your hard work. I know there were things on the ballot access campaign that didn't go well. I know there was fighting. I know there are people who are dissatisfied. What I don't know is whether or not anyone else could have pulled it off any better than you did. I know that you know your state best, you know your constituents and your volunteers better than anyone else on the ballot access committee or the former LNC does. So now we're where we're at, right? So where do you go from here? I want to encourage you to embrace the challenges that are set before you, to persist in the face of setbacks, see your own efforts as a path to mastery ultimately, to learn from criticism, even when it stings, and find lessons and inspirations in your small victories and in the victories of the other people around you. You really deserve to be celebrated for your efforts, because this was a hard battle. And the fact that you held it together till the bitter end and that you're still fighting is really remarkable. I think it's worthwhile to consider changing tactics at this point, because you have community level support, and this gross injustice can really become a battle cry for you. Larry Sharp and his team are essentially martyrs right now on the ballot access front, not just for the Libertarian Party, but for every minor party. You were basically stabbed in the back by the state after Larry's previous success at qualifying for the ballot. You're dealing with what I think are activist judges. I've been following the court proceedings, so you might as well meet them on the activist battlefield. And I think at this point, you need to take the fight to the legislature with lobbying. But I also think it's really critical to keep engaging with the community, because I think you're going to experience some victories at that level. And I'd like to share with you a little bit about two major battles that I helped to win in LA. One was overturning a ban on feeding the homeless, and the second was getting rid of vaccine mandates, because I think they're related to your path forward in New York if you're going to be engaging with your community. So in 2014, I was volunteering with several grassroots groups that just fed homeless people in downtown LA. And the city, actually 2013, the city of LA proposed what they called a ban on food sharing in public rights of way without licensure, which meant you literally couldn't hand food to someone that you didn't know, or even a friend if you were meeting up at a picnic. Obviously, that was only going to be enforced on homeless people. So we got all of our grassroots groups together. We rallied. We spoke out at city council meetings. We targeted city council members on social media. There's a page called Mitch O'Farrell's War on the Poor. We had small business outreach. I personally flyered 104 small businesses before we did a protest on Hollywood Boulevard. Only 3 of them said that they were in favor of the ban. And we cross-promoted between different grassroots groups, and that was what was really critical to our success. Little Old Church Ladies, progressive groups. I was very active in Food Not Bombs, which is a left-leaning anarchist group. All different types, right? Just like very basic nonprofit groups. And it culminated in a giant protest in front of city council members' offices in LA. And within 2 days, they tabled the motion and they did not go forward with the ban because we just absolutely buried them in bad publicity. It was wildly successful. So fast forward several years to LA's vaccine mandate. The way that we approached this was a little bit similar, but we had more time and it was targeted, and the outcome was very interesting. So we got, as soon as we heard about it, we got everybody in the LA County LP giving public comment, and I line all my guys up, right? And it's like, we got 1 minute. So you need to write your speech out in advance, time it, make sure you're not going over. We've got to start putting it out on social media. We've got to start engaging with other groups. And we went through the public comment routine over and over again, 3 times a week. And every time we would do it, you just hit them with a script, right? Hi, my name is Angela McArdle. I'm the chair of the Libertarian Party of Los Angeles County. We oppose these mandates because they're a gross violation of your constitutional rights and your natural right to bodily autonomy. We want to work with you to overturn these mandates regardless of what your political affiliation is. If you'd like to help, please reach out at lplac.us. I yield the balance of my time. Thank you. Multiple people would line up. Every day we would get about 30 different new interactions, phone calls straight to me, emails, hits on our website, people signing up and wanting to get involved. Public comment was really critical because that's where people who are already politically engaged are at. So you don't have to wake up and activate people who are otherwise apathetic. Those are the people who are ready to fight. We drafted the ballot initiative. I drafted it. It hit the streets. We already had this army of activists. We had engaged people with social media. Once it hit, there was an absolute media frenzy because they'd already been talking us in the media. So for a solid week, the Libertarian Party of LA County dominated local news, which is pretty unprecedented because we're like New York City. We're definitely the minority. And as we began to collect signatures, we started to see public support turn in our favor. And I got a phone call, and at first I kind of dismissed it, honestly. I kind of blew it off as nothing. But someone called me and said that they worked at City Hall and that they had heard that the mandate was going to go away because public support was in our favor, and they absolutely couldn't let it go to the ballot and win because they just couldn't let themselves look like losers. So they took it off the ballot. So we won in an unconventional way. And we kind of continued to collect signatures, and we waited until the announcement was made. But I think that was a huge success, and community involvement is how we made it happen. So I want to cover some radical political action and purpose-driven activism today, and kind of help share how it relates to the political activity that I think you guys are going to be engaging in New York. So the situation is, we're in the minority, right? And our leaders are passing tyrannical laws, and we don't have enough political power to combat them on their level, and we feel helpless. Politicians are against us. Most of the media is against us. 50% or more of the population is allegedly against us. And you worked hard to jump through all their hoops, and you worked hard to collect signatures, and the government still shut you down. So now what do? It's kind of decision time. And you have to decide what you want to do. Do you want to make a serious political change? Or do you want to just gain a platform to air your grievances and get your message out? I think you want to make real change. That's what I've witnessed. I think you want that change to be for yourselves, for your loved ones, and for the people of New York who feel tyrannized by the majority that votes them into submission, and most of them are in major metropolitan areas. You've got to have a call to action, and you must engage in the political process. If you put yourself out there as someone who wants to rally the people to make a change. I think you guys know this better than the average state affiliate. I always remind it to people who are really into podcasting and social media warrioring. The battle's got to be fought on the streets and in the communities, not just on the internet. And people like us, we are in the minority. And I don't just mean libertarians. I mean libertarians who are really passionate about making a change. The state is essentially at war with us. And one of the most frustrating things I've seen in our larger community is an unwillingness to fight back. People don't want to be uncomfortable, so they let the state slowly erode their rights. and take bigger and bigger pieces of our lives with every crisis. And eventually there's going to be nothing left. We all lived through this with lockdowns and mandates. It was incredibly depressing. And we're all nervous and kind of waiting to see what's going to be next, right? Precedent's been set. What are they going to do to us next? Libertarians own lots of guns, but we're peaceful people. And the thought of actually fighting back in such a visceral way and taking up arms makes us queasy. And I can understand, right? Because being shot at or spending life in prison sounds pretty awful. That's probably not the ideal way to go. So when you're in the minority, you are forced to engage in essentially asymmetrical warfare. And asymmetrical warfare is the use of unconventional strategies and tactics adopted by a force when the military capabilities of belligerent powers are not simply unequal, but are so significantly different that they cannot make the same sort of attacks on each other. So from a military perspective, you could think about the Viet Cong, you could think about Afghan rebels. I bet there are some vets in the audience. I can't see you, but I'm sure those of you who are there know what I'm talking about. Now, there are several ways to engage in asymmetrical warfare peacefully and politically, including resistance movements, write-in campaigns, even things like parody and satire. So for example, one of the things I did in LA was I created a fake report down for lockdown violations and plastered it all over the city. And you probably had this in New York too. There were actual tip lines to call and report and snitch on someone to the government if there was a business that was operating when everybody was supposed to be shut down. So I took the flyers and I just photoshopped in a fake number, except it was a real number because I purchased it. And I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but it translated to 559, I'm a Nazi. And so you would call in and go through like a very real prompt. And then when you got to, report someone for opening their business in violation of lockdowns, you press 3. And then it was like, if you'd like to report the Jewish people in your neighbor's attic, leave a message now. Fun stuff. So not everything has to be dark and serious, right? That was hilarious. And I did get messages and people were quite angry at being tricked. It was really like crazy how people would tell on themselves. A really interesting way to look at this is honestly through insurgency tactics. So insurgency is a type of asymmetrical warfare. It's basically a small group of people who adopt guerrilla warfare tactics in opposition against authority. And libertarians are kind of like insurgents. Insurgency tactics can also be adopted in a nonviolent manner for political warfare. And that's what I think we should really be focusing on, especially for people who are in states like California and New York, where we are the minority and the majority is very tyrannical and callous about what they do. So I'm not going to get into the technical descriptions of S1, S2, and S3 for those of you who are counterinsurgency veterans. We're just going to cover the basics, but I might cover ROE, which is rules of engagement, because I think that part is really important for public perception. So you are the insurgents. Your job is to go into the community, endear yourselves to the people, and engage in asymmetrical political warfare against the politicians who are essentially ruining your lives and holding you politically hostage. The first thing you got to do is take stock of your resources, basic SWOT analysis, right? What are your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? Take stock of your potential allies. You made a lot of them during your signature gathering campaigns and with your opposition to lockdowns and mandates. Take stock of your potential options and write them all down, even the bad ones. Write it all down. Can you file a ballot initiative? Can you recall someone? What are your political options besides major elections? You want to consider every avenue you have to move the needle in the direction of freedom. And then you want to start working on developing these 5 concepts, right? So you want to have a cultural shift from winning the next election to winning popular support in your community. That is really important because you don't win an election without popular support. You need people to like you. You need to accurately determine the identity of important members within your community. Who holds influence over local politicians? Who's respected in the business community? Who's respected in the activism community? Who's your ally? who's the enemy of your enemy. That's all very good intel, very important. Data management. Those of you who worked on campaigns are probably already familiar with this, especially if you're working a lot in your affiliate. So don't just keep track of things on a napkin, right? You got to get a system to keep track of your members and supporters, a CRM, nation builder, even a mailing list like MailChimp, and you want to try to make it as detailed as possible so that you can really start piecing things together. And then you need a style of operations aimed at working with local civic leaders. So that means you've got to include people outside of your inner circle. And this is like a real pain point sometimes for libertarians because we get so frustrated working with people who don't agree with us. But ultimately what it comes down to is who's mad at the government. And oftentimes that is small business owners and it's people who otherwise aren't very politically active, or, you know, depending on what issue it is, if it's police surveillance, it's people who are so far left, they might seem like communists. And sometimes we got to suck it up and we got to work with them because we do have some common goals. Rolling back militarization of the police state is a great one. And then the development of street knowledge, learning the motivators and cultural mores for the community. So I found in LA that almost every illegal immigrant opposed lockdowns because they couldn't get unemployment and they needed to work in order to survive and send money home to Mexico to their families. It was a hard pill for conservatives to swallow, but eventually they had to get over it and understand that they had to embrace these communities that they have always screamed build a wall at. Because lo and behold, we have something in common. You never know what you can accomplish when you just look around and actually take stock of the people who might agree with you. So what do insurgents aim to do? They aim to establish legitimacy within the eyes of the community. And they want to make the powers that be seem illegitimate. So in more political terms, you can think of this as we want to instill a vote of no confidence or abysmally low ratings in the politicians who are ruining our lives. And we want ourselves to be liked instead of them. Legitimacy is the main objective. We've got to be the people who are the leaders that people actually like in the community. Insurgents also unify their efforts. Unity of effort is really essential. You've got to rally the other groups around you. I know I've seen this with some of the cross endorsements that you guys have in New York because you have a different structure for your ballot. Let other groups continue their protests, their advocacy work, whatever they have. But when there's a petition to sign, you got to get it in everyone's hand. If you have another call to action, make sure everyone is sharing it. And there should be no useless activism and no competing efforts. Sometimes that means that someone else is going to do a better job than we are because they have better resources or they're better connected. And we have to be humble enough to let them take the lead and to play the supporting role. And political factors are primary. Culture is really important, but you've always got to keep your finger on the cultural pulse, but you never want to lose sight of the political objective. Right? The reason that we want to influence culture, the reason that we want community engagement is because we have a goal to achieve. And that's really important to remember. Counterinsurgents have to understand their environment. You got to know your constituents well. Otherwise, you are a tone deaf outsider. This is what a lot of us find when we go to run for office and we have no idea what's going on. Libertarians are historically not so great at this. So don't go into your community meeting with a copy of Man, Economy, and State and start lecturing people on that when they have no idea what the basics of libertarianism is. Don't do it. No, bad. Don't go into a left-leaning, you guys aren't going to do this, but don't go into a left-leaning area wearing a MAGA hat. That's, stop that. We're not here to own the libs. We're here to own the government. You can save owning the libs for the holidays when you want to piss off your pink hat wearing Aunt Karen or whatever her name is. That's a good time to do it. And intelligence drives operations, right? So back to CRM and things like that. This is really an operation. It often feels very social, which is one of the things that makes it bearable and fun, but you've got to gather your intel. You need to know what's happening in the local news, especially. It's not the same as mainstream media. You need to have an idea of what the cops are doing in your neighborhood, what the crime rate is, and what the pain points of the community are. So it may be zoning, it could be parking tickets. It might just be that they hate their local politician because he's a smarmy, insufferable jerk. Whatever it is, find out, because that's going to be very useful to you. And working at the local level is a path forward to working higher up at the state legislation, the legislature, the assembly. Like, we gotta invest in that long game. It's frustrating. We want quick wins, but we've got to invest long term. And politicians, the ones that we hate, they must be isolated from their cause and support. So you take your intelligence, right? And you go to work. Poke holes in their arguments, expose their hypocrisy, greed, callousness, all that stuff. It's there. Your goal is to poke a gaping hole in their like polished narrative and drive a wedge between them and their supporters. And you want to do this strategically, of course, right? If you need to focus your efforts on lobbying to get ballot access, you'll need to spare a few politicians as allies. But the people who already hate you and who are going after you, like take them out reputation-wise. This is something that is totally within your reach. And you want to turn the rule of law against them. Use their own weapons against them. Politicians who are seen as criminals end up losing public support. So pit them against the law, not just the Constitution. I mean, corruption, embezzlement, kickbacks, political hypocrisy, root it out and expose it. I guarantee you it's there. The stuff is very common, even in local politics. If you're the libertarian minority, you're not going to win merely on the merits of your arguments, but you can take someone out if you expose that they've been misusing funds or taking bribes. At least one city council person in LA gets arrested and sent to prison every 3 to 4 years. It's so insane. And I bet there are cities in New York that are exactly the same. Like, it's really wild, especially when you get into development and kind of complex machinations of the city. And counterinsurgents, I got to stress again, got to be prepared for a long-term commitment. So everything that we're working on, it's not a short-term battle. And we've got to think beyond the election cycle. We are too tied to our next dopamine hit. Political objectives do not actually operate at the speed of social media or podcasts or even the 2-year election cycle. It took the left many years to take control of academia, corporate media, and ultimately politics. So you've got to prepare for a long battle. And this is where Republicans have consistently failed, right? And that's why that New York and California are the way they are right now. I really think that we can beat Republicans if we adopt a more long-term thinking and strategy. I could totally see you guys becoming the minor party in New York if you just work smarter than the GOP does. And you want to manage your information and expectations. Make sure that the people around you know it's a long-term fight. Keep your supporters informed and keep yourselves informed, and trust but verify. Always verify the information that you get. Use the appropriate level of force. This is that rules of engagement thing. Many times it has been in the news that a group protested at someone's home. This goes the same for investigative journalism, right? Like, you can take things too far. I've protested in front of the mayor's house in LA, but that's not where his children live. That's the formal mayor's house, if that makes sense. Protesting in front of a home where children live does not make you look good in the eyes of the community. Neither does doxing people. Neither does anything that's really that dirty. So you want to use the appropriate level of force. You don't want to make yourself to look like the villain. We've got to always be the good guy. And you want to learn and adapt. Be open to changing strategy or tactics if things aren't going your way. It's okay. That's how we learn and grow. Strategy is something like running for office, filing a ballot initiative, or recalling a politician. Tactics are the things that you do to carry out your strategy. And I'm sure that this is also something that you guys have experienced through your signature gathering efforts, is you want to empower the lowest levels. Don't create a major bottleneck for decision-making in your operations. Obviously, the biggest decisions need to be made at the top, but you got to allow your teammates to make decisions too. That way things don't get held up. People don't feel disempowered, demoralized, or that they're not worthy of your trust. You want to empower this group because everybody is an individual, and we want to really lean into that and and empower people to show us what they're really capable of. Now, there's this controversial sounding insurgency technique called holding a community hostage. But this is really about providing leverage. So we're not actually holding anyone hostage. You want to provide a service that community members can't get anywhere else. And this means that they're going to be incentivized to go to you and to like you. And maybe if what you're doing is illegal or a gray area, they're not going to report you because they need it. So examples, you get locked down. Hopefully that never happens again. You open speakeasies and backdoor businesses and you keep people employed. We did that in LA with hairstylists and massage therapists and nail salons. It's very interesting. There were a lot of single moms who desperately needed to keep working. And we were able to do that through like a black market Discord where we vetted people. You could let businesses flourish in your church. Mandates, I'm sure that plenty of you have issued your own vaccine cards. Find someone who will see clients without cards, go into business yourself. Those are all great opportunities to provide a service to people. And what about cannabis being illegal? You can open up a shop, anything like that. Now we're seeing kind of psilocybin use become the new cannabis. Make it about treating cancer patients, people with MS, autoimmune disorders, PTSD. You want to find a mom to help you put the word out on that. It's difficult to vilify someone's mom. That's why there's like jokes about it, because it's kind of like off limits. Moms are great at helping to get good PR out. They're really good standard bearers. You can do this sort of stuff with almost any hot button political issue and leverage it to get more political support in your community. When you're in the minority, this step is really necessary, right? In order to attack the perception of the legitimacy of the people who are already in power. The thinking is like this: we don't have legitimate governance, so we have to provide a service or a value to the community that the government or police cannot. We have to demonstrate their failure while doing so. And this destroys their legitimacy in the eyes of constituents while it elevates us in the community. I am very curious to see if anybody's doing this in Jackson, Mississippi right now with the water. Like that's like a prime opportunity for people to come in and say, look at this abject government failure. We can do better. We are literally doing better right now. So a couple of other things to consider regarding legitimacy, right? Did the government piss everyone off? Did they revoke a right or take something away? Did they mess something up like the water? Is there an emotional appeal built into the story? And if not, can you add some? That's something that libertarians struggle with sometimes. We are not as great at the emotional appeal aspect. That's how you start to chip away at legitimacy. Can you provide something they're refusing to provide, or they're just not able to do it? And you want to destabilize them. A constant destabilizing series of operations puts the opposition in a reactive posture and directly affects their ability to coordinate their operations and to conceal those operations from the public. And inefficiency on their part leads to chaos, and chaos leads to their collapse. So what does that look like, right? We got to take the gloves off. We're not going to be able, we should not be above fighting back when people are in authority are trying to ruin our lives. I hope that makes sense. Fight like your life depends on it. Not like you're playing checkers with your best friend, right? Like you don't want to dox people and do evil stuff like that that's going to make you look terrible or compromise your moral integrity, but we've got to be willing to fight. These people are an existential threat, and you should treat them like they've declared war on you, because they essentially have. Can you still be diplomatic? Yes. Follow rules of engagement. But there are diplomats and peace treaties in times of war, but it is still a war. So here's an effective destabilization tactic that I employed in LA. I had a sit-down meeting with LAPD about lockdowns, which required a little bit of an ego death on my part because I am not a fan of law enforcement. But I learned that the vast majority of them were opposed to lockdowns, did not want to enforce them. So I thanked them. I encouraged them to simply not respond to lockdown violation calls. They unofficially agreed to not do that. Then I tried to sell them on the drug war, and that didn't go as well as I'd hoped. But they didn't look at me like I was crazy, right? So I was able to plant a seed there and find some agreement with them. And soon enough, sheriffs, LAPD, fire department, Department of Sanitation, none of them agreed with the city's vaccine mandates. There was open dissent in the ranks, and we exploited it as much as possible. You can do the same thing in lots of different situations. Find a point of disagreement among your elected officials and absolutely exploit it. And you can be the ones driving the dissent, and you can tear them down politically until they're on your level. And I think that that's really like the formula for us to win when we are faced with these just like impossible power imbalances. Insurgency tactics sound intense when they're presented within the framework of actual war, but they're a perfect fit for grassroots activism and for libertarianism. How are we doing on time?
You know, we have to go back in session at 2. And so
Gotcha.
Like, have some questions and answers in if you're like getting ready to wrap up. You know, like I think that's probably the best way now.
You got it.
All right. I guess you wrap up. Angela, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Your local city want to ask a question of Angela, please just make an appropriate motion. If working fine, if you're here, just go ahead and raise your hand and just come up to the camera right here by the podium to ask your question, and Angela will be happy to answer. Anyone have any questions, comments for Angela? Mr. Redmond. Right in front, just look at the camera with the blue light on it right there, and change the light to see it.
Hey, Angela, thanks for appearing today. What I would like to know, what can national do specifically to help us at the state and county levels?
What can national do to help specifically with what?
At the state and county level.
At the state and county level. So there's a couple of things that we're working on right now. So candidate support, I have this insane idea. I get a little bit of pushback on it. I think we should actually give money to candidates. So I hope that we're actually going to see a little bit more of that coming into 2024. There's going to be a meeting about it this evening. State affiliates, the affiliate support committee is working on guidelines and best practices to share. So we can't, for example, rewrite everyone's bylaws. That would be nuts, probably not a good idea, but we can give some best practices, tips, and strategies. We can do that with a lot of different areas. Same for Treasury. I'm also working on making eCanvasser available to lots more candidates. And we are going to be creating an online live class training for Campaign 101, like Introduction to Running as a Candidate, being a treasurer, and being a campaign manager. So those are a handful of things that we're working on. And I'm hoping over the next 3 months, as those things start to get ironed out, we'll see how much more we can take on, and then we'll start doing that. Trying to also put together an ad hoc committee of people to help with FEC filings. That would be for candidates and for state affiliates as well, and for county level affiliates if they need that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions for Ms. McCardle? Ms. Einwalker, come right on up. Act like you're talking to Colsey. Look right at the camera. With blue light.
All right, okay. Hi, Angela. I'm other Angela from Steuben County here in New York, and that means nothing to you. But one of the things I hear you talk about is real urban concerns. My concern with New York State is that we are, although we have some very large metropolitan areas, we are largely also a very rural.
What? I think I know who that woman is talking.
Hold on, someone's not muted. You guys want to mute?
Everybody, can all remote distance, please.
There we go.
My question is, what do you recommend for people like us who, I have a county, I'm in a county the size of Rhode Island.
Okay.
What I 20,000 population. So the issues of our county are not necessarily that of Monroe County or Erie County or, the Long Island or whatever, those areas. What do you recommend as a strategy for those of us who have sort of a homogeneous population? How do we message to them, I guess?
Well, I would first try to identify a pain point in your community. So for you, it might be a local zoning law or even a tax law or a stoplight that is causing accidents or local congestion. I would try to jump on that. I would also look to see if there are any committee level, like subcommittee appointments that you could get. So in some of our more rural areas in California, we found that active people in the party, they were able to get on like a zoning commission or a board and start to work their way up. I think that would be a really good way to tackle issues, especially if you've been in the community a long time.
But I'm already on the town board.
There you go.
Our hot is green energy development, wind, and the taking away of home rule in New York.
Yeah.
That is an issue we can do, but it's just reaching those people who really are more laser focused on national issues, not so much local issues. You know what I mean? So, but we'll just keep plugging along and pay attention. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Do we have any other questions for Ms. McArdle from here or from the remote parts? Anybody?
I just have.
I'm sorry, Mr. Acton. Come on up and look, act like you're talking to Colsey. We'll go ahead and do that.
Okay, hi, Angela, Mark Axon from New York County, 30-year member, and friendly with several of your predecessors. How are you doing on getting a new executive director and staff up and running in Washington?
Oh, we have an interim director right now, Lainey Houston. She'll be helping us fill the permanent role once we get to the middle to end of October. But yeah, otherwise we're good right now on staff. We have some new staff. Everybody's just getting their bearings, and I'm very optimistic.
Great, thank you. Mr. Olinsky. You know the drill. Look at the blue light.
Hi, Angela. My name is Christopher Linsky. I'm sure you are well aware, most recently with the decision the LNC made to give Sharp Campaign some money to fight these lawsuits and help try to get back on the ballot. I'm paraphrasing, but I believe one of the points you made is that by approving those funds now, it could have a substantial savings on the amount of money the LNC would have to go forward with in the future for us here in New York. I worked with a coalition of independent candidates across the state, having legislative discussions with the chiefs of staffs of at least 24 legislators. And we actually did get bipartisan support to have a bill presented by John Salka, and then later a companion bill in the Senate, Democrat sponsored, was approved, didn't get passed. But that was a major accomplishment working with that committee. And going forward, part of the, you know the case, right? It was going to be a major thing that we're going to have 45,000 in 2022 as well for presidential candidate. Going forward, I think that gives us at least 3, maybe 4 legislative sessions where we could potentially continue to lobby and maybe get that legislation passed. So I would be welcoming to any sort of national support where we could get to have people continue on with that coalition and try to have conversations with the actual elected, whether the Republican or Democrat. Let's face it, they got elected. They're the ones in power. They're the ones we need to speak to. If we can convince them to change this to allow all independent candidates back on the ballot, we'd be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. As you make progress on that, please send us some updates. If you need financial support, I will do what I can to argue for it. Send us information on it. Send us the names of those people too. I'm happy to write very cordial, friendly letters to them. We'll do whatever we can to support that effort. I think that's really smart what you're doing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Olinsky. Any other questions for Ms. McArdle? All right, very well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm rooting for your success, and you have my support. Have a good convention.
Thank you, Angela. All right, everybody, it's 2 o'clock. We are back in the session. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel, everybody. We're going to entertain any new business at this point. Mr. Kolsky, are you ready to propose?
Yeah, these are all going to be really quick. 5 county contact renewals, then get to the reschedule.
All right, go ahead and make-
So motion to extend the term of county contact Jamie Vanderwalker for Allegheny County for 3 months expiring December 22nd, 2022.
All right,
Make the motion.
very good. Do we have a second? That's Mr. Whitmer. Do we have any discussion? Any questions? There being no questions, we'll just put that to a poll. Shall we renew the Allegheny County contact? You have a question, Mr. Whitmer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I see. It just does that?
Yeah.
Someone needs to help
Yeah.
me. Someone needs to help me spelling Allegheny.
Oh,
Yeah, it's in the chat. I just sent it there.
Oh, thank you. Perfect. I'm good, but not that good, gentlemen.
Point of order for these others, can you do a
I was just thinking exactly what you were thinking.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, I'll run through it after this. Actually, we can do it right now.
We could, yeah.
Yeah, you know what, without objection, we'll pass the motion on the floor.
Oh, it was already out, but okay.
No problem. Well, we had no objection, so we'll just pass it. No need to vote. Stop voting. No need to vote on that. Motion on the floor has passed, by unanimous consent. Mr. Kolsky, second motion.
Motion to extend the term of county contact Zachary Remian for Clinton County for 3 months, which would expire December 26th.
Do we have a second to that motion, Mr. Redmond? Do we have any discussion on this? Without objection, motion passes. No objections being heard, we are passed by unanimous consent. Mr. Colson, next.
And then motion to renew the appointment for 3 months for Christopher Lindecker of Lewis County as a county contact, which would expire January 10th, 2023.
Very good. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Mr. Dayton, do we have any discussion? Any objection? Passed by unanimous consent. Mr. Goldstein.
Motion to extend the term of county contact Jennifer O'Connor for Rensselaer County for 3 months, which would expire January 4th, 2023.
Very well. Do we have any, do we have a second for Mr. Goldstein's motion? Mr. Dayton again. Do we have any discussion? Any objection? Passed by unanimous consent. Next up, Mr. Goldstein.
And then finally, motion to extend the term for county contact for Brian Wells for Washington County, which would expire December 22nd.
Very good. We have a second for Mr. Ms. Newell. Do we have any discussion? Any objection? Passed by unanimous consent. Thank you, everybody. Actually, you still have motions, don't you?
Yes, motion to set the next meeting of the state committee.
This is the full state committee.
Of the full state committee, yes. We've clarified that in the rules. Motion to hold the next meeting of the full state committee on Sunday, October 23rd, 2022 at 2 p.m.
Very well. Do we have a second to Mr. Colsey's motion? Second. Mr. Axon, I saw you first. Do we have any discussion on this, Mr. Axon?
I thought we had to have a meeting by October 6th, or is that no longer an issue?
That is no longer an issue. That is an issue for stuff that we covered before, I believe.
Correct, yes.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
What was the date again? October 23rd?
Sunday, October 23rd,
What time?
2 p.m.
It's a Bills bye week, if anybody wants to know.
That's,
For those,
I mean, if it was chosen based on that.
so just to be clear, Sunday, October 23rd, 2 p.m. via Zoom. This is a remote meeting via Zoom, correct?
yes, via
Okay,
Zoom.
thank you. That's just clarifying. I'm not recommending you amend anything. It's just for clarification. Mr. Whitmer, did you have any? You were raising your hand. Did you have a
I have
question?
a county contact question. Drew, who's Oneida's county contact?
Right now is Matthew Giulianelli.
When is this term expire?
His term expires on October 10th. He has not taken the survey yet for renewal.
So can we?
Oh, that would not be germane. If you want to make another motion, you can do that, Mr. Whitmer.
I'd like to make another motion.
Well, not right now,
but we have a motion on the floor right now. You can feel free to bring that up.
Cody, I don't do rules.
I know that. This I know about Mr. Woodman.
I apologize.
It's a, no, you don't apologize often either, so thank you. Do we have any other discussion?
Point of inquiry on the state committee meeting there, how
Yes.
long are those typically scheduled for?
It all depends what needs to be discussed. Sounds like we have rules amendments, so I don't imagine they'll be longer than 2 hours.
Oh, one week, 30 days.
Yeah, so I think you're looking outside 2 hours, my experience for the past 2 years, assuming it's nothing too major. Sometimes we've done it in under an hour. Sometimes I've had a meeting in 10 minutes. Dr. Braven.
Point of information, I think there are a lot of rules proposals, and some of them are likely to demand great thought. So it's going to depend on people looking at them beforehand, and maybe if they want to have some alterations, proposing alterations very quickly. We have to have, a pretty final wording now. We can't amend things on the fly at that October 23rd meeting. People have to take responsibility, make proposals for changes, and get them back to the rules committee as soon as possible.
Your point is well taken. It is incumbent upon all members of the state committee to know the rules, or at least be familiar with the rules, and also to review those rules amendments that come by them. Well taken, Dr. Braden. Thank you. But you look at it as if it's going to be my problem in 10 minutes.
I know, but it's not your problem if your prediction of 2 hours turns out to be false.
Well, I'm giving the estimate, and Mr. Kolsky can set expectations after that.
If it was 2 hours, I'd schedule it for like 7 p.m.
Oh, they're gonna say for 7 hours. No.
No, I'd schedule it for later in the day if I thought it was going to go longer, because I don't want it going to 10, 11, hence the afternoon.
I understand. Yep. Okay, so Mr. Kolsky believes that it's not going to go longer. Then
it could, so there's flexibility so that people who wake up early the next day don't have to be falling asleep at the end of the meeting.
Thank you for being merciful, Mr. Kolsky. Do we have any further discussion? Do we have any objection to holding the state committee meeting on October 3rd, Sunday, October 23rd, excuse me, at 2 p.m.? Hearing no objections, motion passes by unanimous consent. Do we have any other new business to come before this committee? Mr. Whitmer?
I don't know how to do this, but I'd like to appoint a county contact for head of county.
I believe what would have to happen is that Mr. Giuliani would have to either Giuliani, excuse me, with Giuliani. I apologize. Giuliani was. I believe that he would either have to resign or we would have to remove him as county contact.
I'd like to make a motion to remove Matthew Giuliani and head of county contact.
Very well. Do we have a second to that motion?
And replace 2 and 1 and replace.
Okay, very good. Thank you for thank you. That is your own friendly amendment. Thank you. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Who made the second? I'm sorry. Mr. Shute. Mr. Shute.
No, that was me.
Mr. Shute. Do we have any discussion?
Well, it's been seconded. Because I just wanted to clarify that that's gonna be, and we can just put that in as a clarification that this will be from 3 months from this appointment.
That would be correct. That's as
Further
Mr. Red, if this motion passed, Mr. Redhead would be effectively appointed for a 3-month term as all county contacts.
Okay, I will put that in there as clarification.
That is clarification. Thank you. Mr. Gunther.
Just because I don't know the situation, just on point on one ground. I don't know the situation, what's going on there. So people in the county just aren't happy.
It'll make organizing the county a little
Yeah.
Your question is answered, Mr. Gunther?
Yeah.
Dr. Berger.
Yes, I'm now the county chair for Madison County, the neighboring county. We have offered help to try to help organize Oneida County, but it's been difficult to do outreach with them so far. So I had previously already gotten a chance to meet Mr. Redhead at his bar. I know he sponsored an event for Larry Sharp there. So I have a great expectation that there will be better level of organization going on with this change.
Well taken, Dr. Brennan. Thank you. Mr. Olinsky.
Yeah, I think I've read something here on the internet. Our Fulton County, that Mr. Lyon is chairman of.
That's correct. Is it germane to the motion on the floor?
It is. I'd like to say reach out to Fulton County because I believe that they're, with his resignation, they might struggle to stay alive. So I think that would be incumbent upon us, anybody who's in a leadership position as a county chair to try to think about the restructure.
Well, right now they have other officers who are going to be in charge. If they're not, then they will be there are rules for that. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Linsky. Do we have any further discussion? Do we have any objections to the motion on the floor? Passes by unanimous consent. You will inform Mr. Redhead as the new role chair, I suppose, whatever you are now. Whatever the hell you are. So, do we have any, Mr. Colsey?
I just, point of personal privilege, I just want to say something before we adjourn.
Certainly, and then I actually have some, I actually would like to take a moment of personal privilege after adjourn as well. Go right ahead.
Okay. So I just want to read a bunch of names of people who served on the state committee for the past 2 years. Tony did this last time when he recognized people on the ISC. These are the people who will no longer be serving, but have served in the past. Some of them have moved, some of them have moved on, some of them are still involved. So I just want to recognize them who were previously on the state committee this past term. Lisa Gansky, Michael Madrid, Alicia Miller, Ilya Schwartzberg, Tucker Coburn, Gilbert Medinette, Stacy Pressman, Todd Haggerty, Jay Carr, Rob Arrigo, Fred Cole, Nathan Dunn, Brandon Lyon, Rachel Becker, Maria Burrell, Patricia Berthod, Millie Dordell, David Fight, Sean Hannon, Craig Miles, Joseph Saban, Sean Stevens, Craig Colwell, Tom Queter, Paul Secret, Dustin Tate, Harry Bittner, Eric Cooper, Andrew Hollister, Robert Bombosky, Jim Russell, Kevin Wilson, Peyton Kunzelman, Pietro Geraci, Anthony Pellegrino, Gary Denoyan, Artie Sintek, William Van Helmen, Kevin Warmhold, Michael Arcati, Gabrielle Cordova, Aaron Comey, Manuel Torres, Susan Wolverine Cummings. I think who are no longer on the executive committee and served on the executive committee as at large: Maria Borrell, Gabrielle Cordova, Rob Rigo, Pietro Geraci, and Paul Grindel for their service for the past 2 years. Thank you, Rob Treasurer Laura Newell, for filing our reports and keeping the books all organized. Your audio, first vice chair. Chair, please.
Thank you. You covered much of what I wanted to say. My opening comments were salty, with reason. I think we, as a party, we have a reckoning for what it means to be an active and volunteer. I want to close the meeting on a high note. I want to thank everybody who has served on the state committee for the past 2 years, along with me, shoulder to shoulder. I appreciate your commitment to time and effort, bickering over rules, and trying to keep the business of the party running forward. I especially appreciate took the time and the effort to collect signatures for Larry. I want to help thank the people who took the time to compile all our signatures in Albany. I'm very proud of the work I've done, and I wish, as always, I could have accomplished more. I'm confident in the incoming executive committee, which thankfully I am part of, to move things forward, perhaps in a different way. But again, insanity is that definition of insanity is doing things the same way over and over again and not getting different results. So I'm happy to let a new vision guide this party going forward. And I want to thank you all for stepping up, serving in the role. And I want to thank everybody who's here remotely for spending their Saturday and Sunday hopefully sitting by the pool and, being in this meeting. But thank you all very much. I'm very appreciative, and we all deserve a round of applause. That being said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Jackson, for clarification. Yeah, sorry. We'll take it from Ms. Thompson. Do we have any objection to adjourn? Do we have any discussion about it? Do we have any objection?
Objection, no, just kidding.
How dare you? You object? Okay, very well. We'll put it to a vote, you jerk. All right.
We're here, it's paid for, there are rules discussed, we can dispose of this in the next meeting, right? Or we could do it now, right? We have the time, we have the place.
What rules? What are you talking about?
There are no rules.
There are no rules discussed.
Anarchy, baby.
We could entertain a motion to reconsider and use the time that we spent for it. I think that's good with that.
You gonna make that motion? You gonna make that motion?
I would draw.
Follow your license for that? Do we have any serious objections? There being no objections, we adjourn by unanimous consent. Thank you all.
2 hours, 43 minutes early.
That's amazing.
Well.
Where everyone be?
Yeah, good team. Okay, all right.